I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 47 of Tales from Godric's Hollow, the number one podcast regarding Harry Potter, Muggles, and Sphinx riddles. True story. I am one of your hosts. I am the Muggle of the show. I am Josh Brown. I am joined, as always, by the professor himself, Matt Sonnenberg. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Josh.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I actually forgot to tell you before the show.
Yeah.
I sold my house this week.
Woo! Congratulations.
Yeah.
That was less than a week.
Exactly. The listing actually went up on Monday, and we accepted the offer officially on Wednesday.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We talked about it off air, and you were saying like how quickly like the realtor thought it was going to go, and I was like, that seems like a stretch for it to go like within a week. But you know, I don't know the Eau Claire, Wisconsin house market as well as you do or your realtor, so you know, I reserved judgment until I saw what happened. But good job, congratulations! I'm happy for you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, it was quite a whirlwind of activity. Like we were practically kicked out of our house for 2 days because within 2 days we had 10 showings and ended up with 5 offers. So it quite an experience.
Sure. Then has the inspection gone through already, or?
The offer we accepted actually does not have an inspection.
What?
We were surprised with that too.
Eager to get in?
Our realtor explained it to us. It's like that's kind of the last thing they can, cross off the list to make the offer a little more enticing is offer no inspection.
Wow. I mean, not that I don't trust you guys and your house. I'm sure it's, up and up, and I know you probably took care of it very well. But that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I had no idea that was even an option. I thought inspections are mandatory.
Well, I told you this, but Val's best friend, her and her fiance, they just bought a house or put an offer in a house that got accepted, and they're excited. And they went through the inspection process for the house that they're going to be buying. And turns out that the master bedroom that was built into the basement never had permits pulled on it.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's completely out of code and not legal, and therefore can't be sold as a 3-bedroom house anymore because, one of the bedrooms is not technically a bedroom by the state's determination.
Get your permits, folks.
Needless to say, they are not buying that house. They backed out of that once that came about. But that's why it's crazy to me that someone would forgo an inspection, because, like, that's totally something that could happen to somebody, whether it be accidentally or the homeowners are trying to, just not disclose that information or whatever the case is. Like, that falls onto the new homeowners if something were to come of that. So, whew. That's a gamble right there.
Surprisingly, they were one of 2 offers that offered no inspection. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations to you and your wife, and now everything is moving at lightning speed, I imagine, that over there.
Yeah, it's moving along quite quickly now.
The Sonnenberg household is quite the place to behold, I'm sure. Matt, tonight we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We are on chapters 30 and 31 of
Correct.
Goblet of Fire. These were super long chapters, Matt.
Forgot to warn you. Yeah, I knew they were coming up, and I usually like to warn you, like, the reading's going to be a little bit longer, leave a little more time, but yeah, forgot about this one.
Yeah, Val muttered some choice words under her breath when we sat down and she looked at the length of the chapters. And silly us. I mean, we waited later than we normally do. I had also just gotten back from vacation, so I was kind of tired, and she had a long weekend of softball and birthdays and kid activities. Like, that was like her first time to sit down and relax, and halfway through chapter 31, like, we looked at each other, I was like, are we gonna finish this? Like, there's a chance we're gonna fall asleep reading this book here, and, you know, I don't blame either one of us for doing so, but it's a really good chapter. We need to push through this.
Yes.
But it was tough, Matt. It was tough.
I believe it, but it looks like you made it.
We did, yes. So I'm excited to talk all about these chapters and break them down into great depths and detail, and maybe have a humble brag or two scattered about, like I do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know they're coming.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just wait for the emails. You know, maybe I'll just sit back and just wait for the emails to come rolling in, because I'm sure one or two of them mentioned more glorious victories on my end. But before we get into all that, we have to do what we always do, and that's give away another prize.
It's true.
We enjoy giving away prizes here at Tales from Godric's Hollow. It's one of the things we enjoy. We are able to do so because of the fine folks that are supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. All of that goes into all of the prizes and giveaways that we do for you guys, the listening audience. So, last week we decided that we're going to give away a Niffler, an actual real-life Niffler. Matt caught him himself. I have seen it caged. I have seen it very antsy and anxious to get its grubby little hands on every shiny little thing you possibly have in your house. Matt could 100% validate that this is a real-life Niffler.
You're going to get us in trouble here.
Okay, it's not a real Niffler. No, if anybody actually thinks that we're giving away a real Niffler, then I have some beachfront property to sell you in Wisconsin. You could be Matt's neighbor. No, it's a Funko Pop vinyl Niffler. Very cute, very adorable. Perfect little thing to sit on your desk. If you're not a collector of Funko Pops, I'm sorry for you winning this, because it's going to start a collection you're not prepared for.
Very true.
Kind of like Pringles. Like, you just can't stop at one. It's absolutely impossible. Even if you say, I'm only going to get one, or I'm only going to get the series that I love the most, they eventually come out with more that will entice you and drag you back in. Countless Harry Potter ones don't even know what they're up to.
It's true. Yeah, that was mine. I'm only collecting the Harry Potter ones, which, I mean, has now leaked over technically into the Fantastic Beasts line.
Right.
But they just keep coming out with more and more Harry Potter ones.
Yeah.
Like,
I came out with
I didn't
trains.
expect them to come out with that many.
You know, variants and different poses and clothing options of the characters, and it's a very dark hole that I don't wish anybody to go down, but we're forcing somebody down one tonight, Matt, when we give away a Niffler.
It's true.
Last week, I asked everybody to send in their emails to talesfromgodricsilo@gmail.com. Send them over to Matt as your entry. All you had to do was submit an idea for what candy password you would have on your chamber, your quarters, your dungeon, your whatever you're trying to keep people out of.
Yes.
Matt, did we get submissions?
We did. Got another 12 of them.
12.
12 is our lucky number, I guess.
It's a solid number. I like that. I'm going to pick a number here, Matt.
All right.
I am going to pick lucky number 3. Because this week we got to the third task, and I actually fist pumped to myself when the chapter 31, the third task, was read to me. Woo! So excited, Matt. I was expecting this to go on for many more chapters before we got to it.
I kind of thought that, the way you've been talking about it. It's like, we got to wait so long, and it actually comes up pretty quick.
Yeah. Not holding the book ever, like, absolutely prevents me from ever even, like, glancing at the next chapter's name.
Which is good.
Yeah.
A very good thing.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought about how good that actually is.
Right. Because some of the chapters are very descriptive just in their names.
Yep.
And then we get other chapters, like chapter 30. It's like, I don't even know what's about to happen in this one.
Yes, yes.
This is a hard right turn into confusion land. Anyway, lucky number 3, Matt.
Well, lucky number 3, I don't actually have a name on this.
Oh, mystery entry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just going to have to read it, and whoever wrote this in, get in contact with me, and, well, you won.
Well, you have their email, right?
I do. I can send them email.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
How else did you get it, Matt? Did an owl deliver it mysteriously?
So it says, I actually do have a candy name to submit this week. It was named by my then 10-year-old niece. I made them snacks one day. They wanted Affy Tapples, but I only had one left. So I cut it up into pieces and made some extra caramel to cover the small apple cubes so they could share evenly. Well, it didn't turn out as I'd hoped, but they were still good. Little apple cubes with caramel that didn't quite stick to the apple pieces and ran down the sides to make a small round caramel circle with an apple cube in the middle. Well, a few minutes later, my niece comes and asks me if I can have more of my caramel apple nipples. So there you go. That would be my candy password. Very easy to remember.
Apple nibbles.
Yes.
I love it. Also, that sounds really good because I am hungry. I have not eaten dinner yet, Matt. I am starving, and this was a bad idea to do this kind of giveaway tonight.
I was going to say, because I want to read off the rest of them because people got creative.
Okay, let's hear it.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good one. And I like the story behind it. I like that. That's a genuine thing that has been sitting around in their brain for this long. I kind of want to make those now because that sounds really good. So, congratulations to the winner, the mystery winner.
Mystery winner, yep.
Yeah. Matt will get a hold of you and get you your very own niffler.
Speaking of nifflers, Brady wrote in and said he would have gummy nifflers because I love gummy things and nifflers.
Sure.
Gummy nifflers and oranges.
I like it.
There you go. Brent says rainbow lollies. It's a lollipop that when you eat it, it makes your teeth change different colors.
Okay.
One from Sarah said butterscotch bowtruckle.
Alliteration is key, people. I love it.
Yes, they're good at this.
Yes.
Mary says my candy password would be Abba-Zabba Zappers. They'd be the same peanut butter and taffy combo, but they make your hair stand on end while you ate them.
Also, that's really hard to say, so nobody's probably coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jessica says if I was able to create candy, it would be purple pucker pops, which would be sour grape suckers.
Okay, I like it.
Rihanna says, in honor of the kitten I found in a bush outside my apartment, her password would be Batwing Brittle. We named our kitten Aries after a favorite character in the series, Gregor the Overlander, and that character happens to be a bat.
All right.
Are you familiar
was
with
a
that
journey
series?
we just went on. Nope.
Yeah. There are a lot of connections.
I was making the through lines on a little invisible piece of paper here and trying to make sure I was following along.
In any case,
that's cool, though.
Batwing Brittle. There you go.
It. Yeah.
I can picture that one, actually. Trinka says she would use Metamorph Magi mints.
See, what the people didn't think about, Matt, is how fun this would have been for them to come up with the hardest names for you to read through.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did think of this.
Somebody did.
Got one from Chelsea. Says, I love crab legs, but hate the work it takes to get to the meat. I imagine in the Wizarding World, it could be possible to replace the shell of the crab with chocolate. Then you could just take a bite without having to use a cracker or fight my way through my meal. Plus, chocolate and crab meat should be good, right? I would call them chocolate crustacean clusters.
I like it. I like the salty, sweet combination. Seafood and chocolate's kind of... you could go either way, if done right.
I don't know if I've ever had seafood and chocolate, but maybe. I'm sure someone's tried it.
Oh, yeah. Come on now, Matt. Somebody's tried it.
Let's see. Lauren says, my students helped me come up with several names. Lauren Air Bears, which would be gummy bears.
Okay.
Era Gobstoppers.
All right.
That's twist on Aragog and Gobstoppers. Okay.
Sure.
And Laurendels, which are chocolate truffles.
I like that.
Very nicely done.
Yeah. Her students did well.
Yes. Our headmistress, Mel B, says, combusting caramel crowns. They would be normal caramel fudge in a salted caramel biscuit. But because this is the wizarding world, there's a 30% chance it will combust once the package is opened.
Two things.
Yep.
When she says biscuit, like, we're in the agreement that she's probably talking like a cookie, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out this crazy Aussie talk that she has, and it's difficult, Mel B.
Yeah, because if we put it in what I, as an American, would call a biscuit, that actually sounds kind of gross.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming she's going with the British, Australian kind of cookie biscuit. Sure.
Probably most of the rest of the world, let's be honest. Also, Mel B is kind of a prankster. I'm starting to understand this about her. Like, she, adores Fred George, and I've always wondered why that was. I think she's, she has a little bit of prankster in herself. So it's all coming together here.
All right, and our last entry then was from Kim Cross, or rather her kids again. They actually won last week.
Okay.
But it says their contribution for this week's challenge is Gobchew Fizz. Gobchew's Fizz. There we go.
Okay.
Which is a lollipop that works in the opposite way of every flavor beans. You put it in your mouth, it fizzes, and will change to whatever flavor you're thinking of.
I
like it.
Yes. Yeah. Unless, as we've seen with the Ghostbusters, Matt, sometimes you just think about things that you're not supposed to be thinking about, and it could go awry very quickly.
It all works out in the end.
Usually. I'm sure there might be some spells to entice people to think other things. Enter Mel B in her mischievous ways, and this is a recipe for disaster.
Sure.
Regardless, I like all those submissions. Those are really cool.
Like I said, I enjoyed reading through those this week.
Yes, and I'm super hungry now, so we're going to stop the podcast. I'm going to go eat dinner, and we'll be back. No, I'm kidding. Well, thank you to everybody that's made submissions. We always enjoy them. Have a lot of fun. This week will be no different. We have another giveaway at the end of the show. I have another fun submission creation project for you very creative people out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to require some thinking caps. And we're going to have a really cool prize to go with it. So stay tuned for the end of the show when we cover that. And I think it's about time because we have a lot to cover, Matt.
We do.
The chapter 30 and 31 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Yes, we are still reading this book.
We're getting to the end, though.
The end is near, Matt.
So chapter 30 is... I always...
Okay, I've been waiting for this moment since last night. Because, okay, here's the thing. Val was unsure how to pronounce it, and she had several different ways of pronouncing it throughout the entire chapter.
Sure.
All I wanted to do, Matt, was just Google it and get a pronunciation read to me, and she stopped me. She would not let me do it.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting. I've been dying to hear how you pronounce it.
So when I'm reading it, I definitely just go with Pensieve.
Okay. That's kind of what she settled on, but...
Yeah. Like, I also hear a lot of, like, Pensieve.
Yes. Yes. Pensieve, she wasn't 100% sure because that definitely has another meaning.
Exactly, but like, yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but I, I I'm okay with either one.
Okay.
I'm not going to yell at anybody for either pronunciation.
Question.
Yes.
And I know you don't like to like tell me things ahead of time. Is this scene in the movie?
Yes.
Do they actually say this word?
I have to imagine they do.
Okay. But you don't remember how it's pronounced in the movie then?
Not right now.
Okay. Fair enough. That's usually kind of like the go-to on how to pronounce these.
As official as we get.
Yeah. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. We do have quite a roster of new characters this chapter. I'm just kind of flip through them because I know you'll just kind of throw them out the window.
Matt, did you read my notes this week?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you saw my specific note.
I did see your note, yeah. Yeah.
I called that, didn't I?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, a lot of these names you won't necessarily need to remember, but
no. So
the bulk of these are people that either are known Death Eaters or at least accused of being Death Eaters. So Anton Dolhov, we got a first name of Rosier, which we had last week. His first name is Evan. Get Travers, McKinnon's, Mulciber. Then the bigger names to remember are Augustus Rookwood. Mm-hmm. Might talk about a little bit. Frank Longbottom, we'll definitely talk about. And then a random mention of a girl named Florence.
Right.
So I'm just going to leave it at that, and let's dive right into this.
Yeah. A lot of new characters. As soon as he started listing them off, I was just like, oh, geez, here we go. And I wanted to pay attention, and I wanted to, like, listen for names that, like, I would be familiar with, and one name after another, I was just like, nope. And then it finally got to one. I was like, oh, hey, ears up. Let's focus in on this one here because this seems important. So it was a weird little sequence of like I was focusing on like what they did, their actions, but like the names are just gone. Yeah,
it's one of those things. Like the first time you hear a name, like I know a lot of times you don't remember it, but when it comes up again, I try to make a point of reminding you because there's usually a reason it comes up more than once.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's all right.
Okay, so let's just get this started out of the way here. Dumbledore has pictures of all the past headmasters and headmistresses in his office.
Yes.
Do they give him advice?
Up to this point, we don't really know, but it would kind of seem to make sense.
I'm curious about this because, like, all the other paintings and pictures throughout Hogwarts, like, they all have, like, their very specific jobs or tasks or things that they do as people in paintings, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that like all the headmasters and headmistresses have paintings in his office, like I would like to think that like that's his think tank where he could be like he could go in and he's like, I don't know what to do with this kid Harry Potter. He keeps getting into trouble. I'm trying to be nice to him and he's not listening, and all he does is just break every rule set in place, and I'm just losing my mind trying to deal with him. And like they could all like collectively like calm him down and remind him that he's Dumbledore, and that's how I imagine like this process going like on a nightly basis with Dumbledore.
I could definitely see that. It just makes sense from a Muggle point of view to have those pictures in the office.
Right.
Like that wouldn't be uncommon to see pictures of former leaders of a certain place in that office.
Right.
But then given that it is the wizarding world and the pictures are alive and you can actually converse with them, and that would make a lot of sense. Even more reason to have them in that room so you can maybe get advice from them and learn from them. And it's like, what did you do in this situation? What did you have ever run into a situation like this? And
right.
How was it resolved? And did it turn out well? And what would you do a second time through? And
Also,
Yeah.
I know like there's like a lot of ghosts around the castle, and like those are obviously dead people. I've never like looked at the paintings though as being dead people, formerly alive people, like more along the lines of like they were just paintings of people that have been brought to life by the power of magic.
And honestly, I think most of them are that way.
Okay.
That's kind of how I understand them too.
Yeah, that's how I
Like,
always thought of them until this, when I'm just like, okay, well, these are all pictures of dead people, obviously.
Yes. Those are definitely people that actually existed, former witches and wizards.
Right.
But I do think like I would have to say like Circadigan or the Fat Lady. I think of them more as just artwork that's been brought to life.
Yeah.
Is it possible they did exist? Sure.
Mhm.
Is it possible they were at least based on someone who existed? Sure.
Right.
But I think like when it gets interesting because you get things like Colin Creevey when he's taking the pictures and he's like, if I develop them in a certain solution, that's when they start to move.
Right.
So we know it works with photographs as well as what I'm assuming a lot of the artwork is like just paintings.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all photographs.
Well, like the photograph thing, like I see is like being like they're constantly doing like the same thing, like acting out the same scene of whatever they're captured in, type of thing.
Sure.
Whereas
sure.
the paintings, I could see them having more freedom, as we've seen Circadian just run around as he pleases. And
Yeah.
so my next question is like, are headmasters and mistresses ever fired, or are you that position until you die?
Oh,
Do we know?
They definitely can be fired because a couple books back, Malfoy was trying to get Dumbledore fired because the headmaster is appointed by the governors of the school.
Right.
And so they can also take him out of that position as well.
Would you get a painting of you if you've been fired, or does that painting only happen after you die?
Oh no, I think you get one if you're just it's all of the former.
Okay.
I think.
See,
Regardless,
there's just a lot of blurred lines here between.
Sure.
Something weird. Like, this is one line in the book, in the chapter, Matt, that just like made me stop and think about how this whole process works.
That's good. That's good. I like it.
Very curious. And I'll never probably get answers to any of this, but it was an interesting way to start the chapter nonetheless. Harry Potter is a dumb 14-year-old boy
Absolutely.
who refuses to just not get into things that he's not supposed to get into.
Pretty much, yeah.
He is adamant about pushing the limits as far as he possibly can. What's this mysterious substance? I don't know.
He's not one to stifle curiosity.
Which is great because, like, at the end of the chapter, like, there's actually a line that says curiosity is not a sin. And I love that. I absolutely love that. But it's also very frustrating. Like, okay, granted, the stories are much more entertaining because Harry Potter is curious and refuses to follow the rules. But it's just like...
I mean, we wouldn't have this entire chapter if Harry Potter sat in a chair and waited for Dumbledore to come back.
And maybe that's what makes him special, but it's just like, I just want to slam my head against the table sometimes, because it's like, okay, you found this substance, it's clearly supposed to be locked away, you shouldn't be snooping around in that area, and then, like, I don't know, I'm going to touch it and see what happens, and...
Hey, but he's slowly learning. He knew that he shouldn't, like, stick his hand in it right away. He just poked at it with his wand.
Okay, he's being more cautious.
Yeah,
He's not being... Okay, he's less reckless, but he's going in with the same determination.
Slowly growing up. Ever so slowly.
It's just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
I know. But we are also not Gryffindors, so...
That's probably what we don't understand about this. So he got sucked into the Upside Down, and... he's in a place that he is not familiar with at all. There's all these witches and wizards sitting around, very stoic, very non-responsive. He's chilling next to Dumbledore. Dumbledore doesn't even acknowledge the fact that he's there. A whole lot of confusing things going on.
Yep.
But the description of this room, with this chair with the straps in the middle of it, the first thing I thought of was the execution chair in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Sure.
So I was worried we were about to go that route.
Not so much.
Close.
Yeah. I mean,
this was like the trial process before the execution.
Well, I don't even think it's a full trial. It's just more sentencing.
Yeah, okay. That's also true. But that's having that visualization because of the movie, like, absolutely helped me immerse myself in this chapter because I could envision what this room would look like, envision what this chair looked like.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. And Harry just kind of sat back and he got to witness a whole bunch of things that he wasn't really sure what he was seeing, but definitely some key story elements.
Yeah. Things he wanted to know about for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to help him understand some of the past events that he really had no other way of knowing about unless Dumbledore, I guess, was about the only one. Like, asking McGonagall, I don't think would have necessarily done any good.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't there, I don't think. At least we didn't see her. Yeah. So, like, Dumbledore is one of the few... Well, we saw Moody was there for most of them, I think.
Right.
So, I mean, a couple of people he could have asked, but
sure.
Even just straight up asking, would they have given him that information?
Not so Mad-Eye Moody might have.
Would he have known what to ask them about even?
That's true. Yeah, he was learning things that he didn't even know that he wanted to know about.
Exactly.
Like our good friend Igor. And
yep.
when he decided that he was going to be a snitch in order to avoid further sentencing at Azkaban.
Yeah, save his own hide.
Mm-hmm. What kind of Death Eater are you, my friend? A brave one, I would say. But, you know. I think it was funny, and this was when they started rattling off all the names.
Yeah.
That, like, every name he kept bringing up, it was just like, oh, we already killed him. Oh, he's already dead. Oh, we already got him. Oh, and it's just like... And I could just, like, see the frustration on his face of just like, oh my god, this is not working out the way I want it to.
Yep.
Like, you know, he even said this, like, he only knows of so many people because, you know, Voldy made it a point to not let every Death Eater know about every other Death Eater. That way, if somebody were to snitch on him,
exactly,
a la Igor, he wouldn't be able to call out the entire clan of Death Eaters. He could only name a few. Unfortunately for him, everyone that he knew almost turned out to be ones that the Ministry already knew about and had handled in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Things were not going well for Igor Karkaroff. Until he said a name.
He did.
What was that name at?
Augustus Rookwood.
Interesting. The Ministry was very intrigued by this name.
Yep.
Mainly because he was one of them.
It's true.
An insider, Matt. This is not good. You can't have espionage happening in your own department. He worked for, let's see, what was the name of his division? Oh, Department of Mysteries.
Yes.
That sounds amazing.
We've heard of this department before.
Have we?
We have.
We've heard of lots of departments, and I kind of just mix them all up in my head. This one sounded new to me, but I couldn't.
You even brought it up last time.
Okay, that makes
because it sounded familiar or sounded fun or
sure
mysterious.
This sounds like me, Matt.
But it was back at the World Cup when Mr. Weasley was talking about all these different people that were coming by, and he was talking to them, and it's like, oh, and there's these guys. They're the Unspeakables from the Department of Mysteries.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. that was very mysterious back then.
Yes.
Even more so now.
Yep.
I still don't know what Department of Ministries takes on, but I want to find out. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Snape, our good friend Snape, he got name dropped.
He did.
Interesting. Snape happened to be a Death Eater.
Yep. And everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But as well, at least as far as Dumbledore is concerned, he's okay with it.
Sure. He righted his wrongs. He accepted responsibility. He turned over a new leaf and became a double agent. Kinda like this whole Death Eater like squad is like, first of all, like, you're pulling in the worst of the worst people to be a Death Eater, right? So, like, if you're going to be a Death Eater, like, you're already not an awesome person, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it most of it probably started off voluntarily.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to support this guy. I think he's stronger.
When I say pull in, I mean just, like, influence them to join type of thing.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, not like, you know, took them hostage and made them Death Eaters, but...
Yeah, he didn't recruit them or anything.
Right.
But...
So, like, the fact that, like, all the Death Eaters, or not all of them, but, like, many of them that we've seen, like, turn back to the good side, like, once they know, like, you know, things aren't working out for us on this side of the war here, like, maybe we should, you know, switch sides, like, the fact that there's turncoats in this group doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, I still feel like you need to question, like, what it will take for them to go back if the chance ever arises, you know?
Sure.
And I think that's kind of, like, possibly what we saw going on at the Quidditch World Cup. You know, people that were Death Eaters before, maybe they were in hiding, or maybe, like, they had, like, renounced their Death Eater allegiance. Something brought them back into, you know, a fervor and an excitement, and they're just like, nope, we're back! Like, we are back on the Death Eater train, you know? And, like, that instant ability to switch back and forth is frightening to me.
Yeah.
Because I want, like, the strong leaders, you know, fighting the good fight, and not the ones that will just go to whoever's winning. You know, I want the people that will sacrifice everything for the good of what they're fighting for. You know, not the wormy little ones that just, you know, want to ensure their safety, and no matter what it takes, a la Peter Pettigrew.
Yes, a very good example there.
Yeah. So, I guess what I'm saying, Matt, is this doesn't make me trust Snape any more than I did before. You know, I have, you know, not liked him up until this point, and this revelation definitely makes me even more cautious about him being at Hogwarts. You know,
makes sense. Yeah.
In Dumbledore, we trust, right? Like, that's what you've been preaching to me since day one. Like, just trust Dumbledore.
Except you don't trust Dumbledore.
I don't, but everybody thinks I'm crazy for it. But then I see that Snape was definitely a Death Eater at one point, and then Dumbledore thinks he's okay, and I'm just like, Dumbledore, man, what? Can you talk to your fellow headmisters and mistresses and headmasters and get, you know, maybe a group vote on this or something?
Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. I'm just saying, I just wouldn't, even if somebody was a former Death Eater and they decided that they are going to live a better life, like, fine. Do that, but maybe not have them be professors at your school when they're teaching young, vulnerable children. Just a thought.
Sure.
I'm worried about Snape even more so than I was. I didn't like him because he wasn't a good dude, and now that I know that he definitely wasn't a good dude at some point in his life, I don't think that he's a fully reformed non-Death Eater. You know, he still has that Slytherin quality to him. And again, you know, not all Slytherin are Death Eaters, but I'm pretty sure all Death Eaters are Slytherin. So, he hasn't dropped that part of his personality, and that worries me for the longevity of this story.
Sure. I mean, but now even more so, like, the tension between Snape and Moody makes sense.
Right. Yeah, Moody's like, are you kidding me? Like, Snape's going to be a professor at your school. And Dumbledore's like, yeah, it's fine. And Moody's like, oh my god, just hire me. I need to come watch this guy 24/7. You know, and like Karkaroff, I don't trust him. We're definitely not meant to trust this person.
Yeah.
But we also know that he's leaving here soon. So I'm less worried he'd go back to his weird castle up in the Himalayas or wherever he's from and, go about business as usual up in, you know, the frozen tundra. But Snape's too close to the action here. Like, he's on the inside. And I feel like if Voldy, you know, ever gets to the point where he needs somebody on the inside, Snape's there for the taking. And that is troublesome.
Sure.
So we'll see. I don't know. Who knows? I'm just kind of glad that Moody's there to keep an eye on Professor Snape. Or, you know, back in the day, he kept both eyes on him.
Yeah.
What did he have a nickname back then?
Not that we know of. I mean, he's probably just Alistair back then.
Sure. But I mean, he still had like a chunk of his nose and missing, and I think he still had the peg leg because it mentioned hearing him come. No.
They were sitting down the whole time.
That's right. I'm thinking of later on. Okay.
Yeah. That was a different.
Still, who knows?
section.
Who knows what war wounds he had at that point?
Yeah.
Anyway, Snape, I'm paying attention to you, Snape. I think that was the end of the first sequence, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that led to the next sequence of events.
Yep. Just kind of on autoplay.
Yeah, and the mood this time was a lot more light and airy and fun. Like, the people in attendance were talking to each other, whereas the first time they were just kind of all sitting there in silence.
Yep.
It was more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Rita Skeeter was there.
Can't be good.
Because of course she's there. Of course, Matt. But this sequence of events is going to be Ludo Bagman being under fire.
Yeah.
Again, JK is trying to make me weary of this man. And I am refusing to take the bait once again, Matt.
If you say so.
Like, it's just like, oh, okay, he was being questioned for possibly giving information to the Death Eaters. And, like, maybe he did, but, like, he claims if he did, it was totally by accident. He had no intentions. He wasn't, trying to slip them intel on the down low.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the audience is, like, digging this guy. Like, they're celebrating him for being a Quidditch champion.
Yeah. I as much as I hate to relate it to something like that, I mean, this is in our generation, like, I almost look at this like I don't know, like a Ray Lewis situation or something like that.
He's definitely being celebrated.
Where, it's like he's such a big name in his sport that nobody wants to convict him of anything.
Right. Maybe, like, obviously, like, the situations were, like, far different. But, like, O.J. Simpson, when he was on trial, like, all anybody was ever talking about, like, was his phenomenal football career. Like,
yes.
They were calling him
exactly.
Juice, and, like, still being starstruck by him.
Yeah, that's all ever anyone was talking about is like, oh yeah, it's this big superstar and he's on trial, but I mean, when it came down to it, yeah, no one's going to convict him.
Yeah. Or, Tom Brady and deflated footballs,
Yes. No matter what the circumstance, that's just the feeling you get. And I think that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah. If he was anybody else, like, he might have been in serious trouble. Like, they would have been like, okay, even if you did accidentally do this, like, you still did this, and you need to, have some sort of consequence for this. But he's Ludo Bagman, the Quidditch champion of the world. Like, the guy could do no wrong, and everybody's, like, celebrating him, and, like, it was kind of surreal, but at the same time, we just tossed out several examples of, like, how we see this happening in the real world all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not as obscene as you might think.
Right. So maybe he's just pulling one over on everybody, but there's something about Ludo Bagman that just makes me, he's the big jock that may not know any better and may do some things that, like he even said, like, he is regretful for and that he's stupid about. Like, he even said, like, I was being stupid. And they're like, yeah, you totally were. But I don't think inherently he's a bad guy, or that he's intentionally doing anything mischievous or misleading or illegal or devious in any sort of fashion. Like, he just doesn't know any better.
And in that respect, I want to compare him to a guy like Hagrid, who, when he brings in all these beasts for the kids, he's not purposely trying to injure them. He's trying to show them something new and exciting that they haven't seen before. He wants them to be excited like he is.
Right.
But he just hasn't thought it all the way through and ends up having negative effects.
Right. You know who I see young Ludo Bagman being closely resembling in the real Muggle world here?
Who's that?
Another football reference for you. Gronkowski.
Okay.
Just the big dumb jock who just likes to have fun and, has that infectious smile, and everybody kind of likes him, but they all know that, like, he's not the smartest light bulb in the box, Yep. And just, like, but he's still, his personality is exciting enough to where it just captures people, good or bad.
Yep. He's personable enough. He's eye-catching, so he's going to get the attention.
Again, I don't think I have anything to worry about Ludo Bagman. I think this is, once again, another red herring trying to throw me off the scent, trying to make me question and be wary of him, and I think everything's on the up and up.
All right.
That's my stance on Ludo Bagman. Then we got to the third sequence.
Yep.
And this one was a little darker and a little bit more grim.
Definitely.
This was in pale comparison to the excitement that Ludo's questioning had. We saw 4 people, 3 adults and 1 child. And we found out pretty early that the child was actually Barty Jr., or whatever his name is. I don't think we still know his name, right?
Yeah, it's always just Crouch's son.
Sure.
That's all we know.
Now, the description of this scene going on, in my head, I saw him as a much younger kid than I originally thought when we first heard about him being sentenced to Azkaban.
Yep.
They didn't give an age range or anything, but, like, just the way it was written made me feel like maybe he's like 13, 14.
You think so?
I kind of, like, or maybe even younger, which would be even more heartbreaking, but it just didn't seem like this was like a 17, 18-year-old kid.
You see, and that's where I've always kind of put him. I've kind of put him in that 18 range. It's like, we're going to try you as an adult kind of thing.
But, yeah, I mean, that makes more sense logically, but just how it was written and how I interpreted it in my head, I went to a younger age range, which...
Because, I mean, I can still see an 18-year-old kid in dire circumstances like this begging for his life. I mean, when your dad's in charge, like, you kind of think maybe you can get away with things, and then when you realize, wait, he's going to send me away, I can see you start begging like that.
Yeah. I can too. But I think the underlying piece of information that isn't directly stated is kind of how cold and callous Crouch actually is. And, like, if you put away, like, his 18-year-old son to Azkaban, like, yeah, that's pretty messed up. But, like, you're old enough to know better and to make decisions like an adult and face consequences for them, like, even if maybe you didn't do them. But, like, think of, like, how nasty and vile you would have to be to put away, like, your 13 or 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You know? So maybe that's why I'm just, like, I'm over-associating the youth of this, of Junior here, to make Crouch to be more of a bad guy in my head, because I'm still all on board on that train.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So,
but, I mean, when you get into... Like, you start thinking about what they're accusing Crouch of, or Crouch Jr. of, that he was a Death Eater.
Right.
And he was torturing people with unforgivable curses.
Sure.
Like, Moody has told us, like, that's not something you just know, like, is easy to learn.
Right.
Like, it does take some knowledge and some understanding, and so, like, so for if you're saying, 13, 14-year-old boy to be able to do that,
well, we don't even know if he for sure was.
Sure, but that's what they're accusing him of.
Yeah.
So that's one more reason, I guess, I go a little bit older.
Yeah. You're probably way more logical in this, Matt. I think I'm just trying to make Crouch out to be worse than he probably is.
I'm not against you making Crouch a bad guy. It's
okay. But I'm going like super evil villain here.
Worse than Voldemort?
No, come on now. No, you're crazy, Matt. Only Snape's that evil. So that was interesting, but that wasn't the big news of this whole fiasco here.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, we learned about Frank Longbottom.
And I'm assuming that name struck a chord with you.
That set off every radar I had. Neville's dad, I presume.
That would be correct.
And apparently he was attacked. And so was his mom. And suddenly everything kind of makes sense of why Neville is raised by his grandma, which is something, Harry had this revelation 4 years now. He's never bothered to ask. He's never sat down and talked with Neville on that level before. I have a suspicion that Hermione already knows this.
Yeah?
Because he and Hermione have this friendship that they don't boast about a whole lot, but, she is definitely probably the nicest to Neville of anybody else at school. So I have a feeling like she probably knows this. She would be inquisitive enough to either ask or get around the topic somehow to get it brought up. And I feel like Neville would probably trust her enough to tell her something like that.
Maybe. I mean, so I know people get on Harry's case for, like, not asking about her, not figuring it out, but, like, I don't think it's really that odd. Like, I don't expect him to. Because Harry is essentially in the same situation.
Yeah.
Harry's parents are gone. He was raised by someone else.
Right.
So it's not, if anything, it's like Neville's in the same situation, with the exception that it's Neville's grandmother as opposed to Harry's aunt and uncle.
Right. I guess I'm not getting on Harry's case about it. Like, dumb 14-year-old boys, like, that's the last thing they need to worry about. I guess it just made me realize that we've gotten this far without poking just a little bit into, like, some of the people that have been around since day one, pretty much, at Hogwarts. And especially with the multiple conversations that have been had about mudbloods and purebloods, and like, you would think that you would want to know about your classmates, like where they got their magical abilities from.
Yeah,
just basic curiosity,
Yep. But now we start to see a little bit more, like, why I think, at least, like, Neville's grandmother starts to expect so much of Neville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because his parents, at least his father we know for sure, I think maybe his mother too, but I guess it wasn't mentioned in this chapter, whether or not. But his father, at least, was an Auror.
Right.
Which, you have to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like we see Moody is an Auror,
mm-hmm.
and, like, after he sees Harry doing spectacular things, he suggests maybe he should be, like, not everybody should be an Auror.
That's like his highest praise to kids.
Yeah. And so the fact that Neville's dad was an Auror means he was pretty good at what he did, pretty good with the magic.
So you could also kind of see why Neville is so scatterbrained, because, like, this kid has a lot on his plate emotionally that he's just holding in and not really dealing with, and just trying to move past, but it's because his parents are still alive.
And the fact that he hasn't shared it with anyone probably isn't helping.
You're right, yeah. Like, everybody just kind of assumes he's a bumbling idiot. So, is this the moment, and maybe, like, this is more of just a general question to the listening audience as well, but is this, like, the moment where everybody kind of stopped and reevaluated their thoughts on Neville as a character?
I think that's probably pretty safe to say.
I mean, he's been around, for several books now, and earlier, when he was asking Hermione out to the dance, like, that was one of those, and then, he ended up going with Jenny, which was like, okay, that's adorable. So I think he got some bonus points there with people. But this seems like that moment, that defining moment of, like, he's gone from just a sort of a background character who kind of always accidentally got involved in the happenings of the trio, and usually on the losing end of everything.
Yep.
To now he's a sympathetic, very interesting and intriguing character, and with a very mysterious family heritage.
If nothing else, I think this is the point where everybody is like, I want to know more about Neville.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Before it was always just poor Neville. And I mean, it still is poor Neville. Definitely.
Right. Now it's even more poor Neville.
Yeah. But now that added factor of tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah, before it was, of course, that's a Neville thing to do. Of course, he, is flying Professor Flitwick across back and forth the classroom. Now it's like, okay, you have, every excuse in the book to be struggling with things now.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, I just want to know more. I absolutely want to know more. So that's kind of wrapped up the things, the sequences.
Yeah, that was the end
visions.
of the sequence, and Dumbledore just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and all of a sudden there was a Dumbledore on the right and a Dumbledore on the left, and Harry was kind of confused. But
one Dumbledore was looking at him and acknowledging that he was there.
Yeah, and talking to him.
Yeah.
Time to go, Harry.
Dumbledore caught Harry in the act, because of course he did, right? Like, Harry wasn't going to get away with this cleanly.
No, especially when he just kind of sat there and kept watching.
Yeah, that's the thing I was trying to think of. Like, how long would this have continued? Like,
I would imagine. Well,
Harry wouldn't have the knowledge to know how to leave this thing.
probably not. Like it like I said, it was just kind of on autoplay. It just keep playing through all the memories that Dumbledore had put in there, and I don't know. Maybe when you get through them all, it just keeps repeating them.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of scary. Like, what if something happened to Dumbledore while he's out patrolling the grounds, and, like, he doesn't make it back to his office? Ever. Or when, like, it's just, like, kind of crazy to think, like, how long this could have continued.
Harry could be trapped. Awesome.
Scary place.
Yep.
So we learned that this Pensieve?
Pick one and go with it.
Pensieve. It's kind of like a physical memory bank.
Yeah, pretty close. I guess that's a good way of describing it.
It's very weird, very, very weird, unusual thing. Which doesn't surprise me that it's in Dumbledore's office.
Yeah.
But I like his description of just like, sometimes you just feel like you have too many memories and you just want to, let some out of your head to make room for more. Like, and Harry was thinking about it. He's like, no, I've never had that, feeling of like I have too much stuff in my head.
I'm a 14-year-old boy. What are you talking about?
There are lots of spaces in this head. But that was like a very tangible way to explain what was going on.
Yes. And the fact that you could just then extract memories from your head.
Yeah. Just drop them in. Now, is it like a memory card? Like, is there a max limit of memories that you could store in this? Like, would you have to get another Pensieve at that point? Like, how does this work now?
I don't think so, because the way it's described, that they're all swirling around and you don't know if it's a liquid or a gas, and like I kind of think there's infinite room in there.
That's just a scary number, Matt. Like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're talking about people living several hundred years now, like that's a lot of memories to go through.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It is probably not a max amount, but fun to think about nonetheless.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, like that's when Dumbledore was talking to Harry. Harry thought that he was going to get in trouble, and Dumbledore's like, curiosity is not a sin, but you kind of got to be careful with what you're being curious about. Like, stop just jumping into things here.
I kind of get the feeling, too, that if it was just about anyone besides Harry, it would have been a different reaction. But we know Dumbledore has a soft spot for Harry.
Yeah.
And kind of lets him walk and get away with things that not everybody else would. And then when they start having this conversation and lets Harry ask questions and stuff, it's like it feels like he almost wanted Harry to ask him about this stuff or find out about this stuff eventually.
Yeah. This was kind of like his quiz to see where his mind's at with this. Like, was he just being a dumb kid and just, playing with something that he shouldn't have been? Or is he starting to show maturity in trying to figure out or understand things better?
Yeah.
From a more mature perspective.
Yeah, like you said, almost gave him like a pop quiz, and it's like, all right, now, did you pick up on what you're supposed to pick up on?
Right. So this is an interesting little conversation they had. We found out that Dumbledore knew Bertha from Hogwarts.
Yep.
Bertha Jorkins. Now, it wasn't really clear if she was a student of his or if they went to school together.
Yeah, I don't think that was really that clear.
Yeah.
Like I
without knowing how old Bertha is, it's
Exactly. I kind of assumed, like, like he pictured her as a younger girl, so I kind of assumed it was like a kind of a teacher-student relationship.
Yeah.
That's how he remembered her. And
Right.
so, I mean, it could have been no, they were the same age and going to school together, but like just the way it was described, I guess I've always kind of thought of it as he was probably a teacher at that time.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just thought it was kind of adorable to think that, like, little young rascal Dumbledore running around, with this lady friend at school, Bertha. Yeah, I don't know. Is it weird that I picture young Dumbledore still with a long white beard?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's what makes Dumbledore Dumbledore.
Okay. I'm talking like young, like Harry's age, like still with a white long beard.
Oh yeah, like when Fred and George crossed the age line.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I picture a young Dumbledore.
Sure.
Much more agile and probably still thinks he's hilarious. And I need to see the backstory of Dumbledore badly.
Well, it sounds like we're going to get that eventually.
Maybe so.
At least parts of it.
Yeah. I love that Sirius is totally snitching on Harry to Dumbledore, like the true parent that he is.
Yeah, writing Dumbledore behind his back.
Like, Harry was, like, flabbergasted. He was like, how could Sirius, like, just tell you everything? It's like, of course, Sirius is just going to read the letters and just keep them to himself? Like, of course Dumbledore's involved in this whole thing. He's the only other one that knows that Sirius, is, in contact with people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's the one that believes in Sirius.
Yeah.
He's essentially the reason why Sirius is still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. He believes his innocence. We found out that Harry's scar is a Voldy detector.
That's at least Dumbledore's theory.
Right. Yeah. Okay. You're right. It's not 100% confirmed, but Dumbledore's theory is that whenever Voldy is near, or when he's really angry, like Hulk smashing things.
Yes, a strong surge of hatred.
Yeah. That scar goes off, so that's interesting. If that's true, why has Harry's scar gone off? Why has it been hurting? Is it because Voldy was near, or was it him showing extreme fits of rage and anger? Don't know. I bet we'll find out.
Maybe.
I appreciate Dumbledore reads the Muggle newspapers.
Yes.
That
does
seems like the
type.
most Dumbledore thing to do.
Well, yeah, he seems very, or wants to be very much in touch with the Muggles.
Yeah.
Good relations.
Yeah. It seems like everybody else kind of sees them as just like tabloids,
Yeah.
Like, silly Muggle world and your crazy things. But, he reads them like Men in Black do, where, like...
Exactly.
there are tips in those.
Reverse in Men in Black, yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. Then Dumbledore kind of expressed how Neville has never, hasn't told anybody, and, he kind of asked Harry to maybe keep this one a secret, knowing that Harry is really bad at keeping secrets all around. He's like, you're probably going to tell Ron and Hermione everything about what just happened here, but maybe let's not talk about Neville's family. Like, let's let Neville talk about that when he's ready.
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
Mm-hmm.
Dumbledore didn't sit there and say, you're sworn to secrecy on everything that you just saw. You can't talk about this. Like, he knew.
Yeah, he can't expect a 14-year-old boy to keep all that inside.
No, I mean, if Harry learned anything from Hagrid, it's impossible to keep a secret. So, the fact that he narrowed it down to just one specific thing of, like, please just don't talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, Harry's like, okay, this must be really important. Also sounds like we could definitely move on from Ludo being a bad guy. I mean, Dumbledore gave him his stamp of approval, and that's all I need, Matt.
All right.
Conversely, doesn't work with Snape.
I've noticed.
The stamp of approval only goes so far, and it does not extend to the reaches of Professor Snape. So that's that. But it was man, this was a jam-packed chapter of just
It was.
all this back memories and knowledge and conversation with Dumbledore, which I definitely don't think that we've gotten enough of this book. Harry and Dumbledore haven't had like that big sit-down conversation that they.
Oh yeah, it usually comes like at the end of the book.
Yeah. So
it's like, yes, I've been watching the whole time, all year, and yes, I saw what you were doing, and I'm glad you made it.
Right. Yeah. Usually it's like, okay, what lessons did we learn in this book? Like the follow-up, the post-mortem of like, now that everything's done, let's talk about the events here. So it was nice to kind of see Dumbledore get in there before kind of everything unraveled. Sure.
I just like the brief mentions when Harry was in his office, like before he found the Pensieve, that they talk about Fawkes and the Sorting Hat and the Sword of Gryffindor. Like all those things are sitting up there in Dumbledore's office, and all of them have mysteriously come to Harry at one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they're all connected to Dumbledore, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of mysteries that I'm afraid we're going to have to wait 3 or 4 books more before we find out.
It's possible.
The last book, Matt, I'm just expecting it to just be one chapter after another of just bombshell revelation.
Yeah.
Like, you've been thinking this for 6 books now, and then all of a sudden, boom! It's totally not what you thought. And then, boom! Remember this little tidbit from book 1? Well, it's back, and it's super important. Can't come soon enough, Matt.
We'll get there.
Hopefully. Before we get there, though, we should probably cover chapter 31.
We could do that.
Okay.
Chapter 31. This is the third task.
Finally.
Yes.
I feel like I've been waiting forever.
Like I said, it came sooner than you thought, though.
Oh, I'm so glad it did too. I was legitimately happy knowing that this was the chapter. I was like, and then I got that worried feeling of maybe we're going to start the task and it's going to not finish in this chapter, and I'm going to be really mad at Matt.
There's going to be a cliffhanger in the middle of the task.
I mean, There's definitely a cliffhanger at the end of this chapter.
Chapter 32, the third task, part 2.
Well, I mean, I kind of got worried that we were going so far into the chapter before they started the task. I'm like, they're not going to have enough time to actually do this thing. They're going to get started, and it's going to, dramatic's going to happen, and it's going to be the next chapter. And I'm going to have to sit here and wait another week for this. That was a real possibility in my head.
Sure. And
I was frightened to death that it was going to happen. Thankfully, it didn't. So I'm not too mad at you today, Matt.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Do we have any new characters?
We have 2 that give us a little more of... Yeah, I'm guessing you can probably find their names in Hogwarts of History. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce this guy's first name. Apollyon Pringle. Apollyon Pringle, there we go.
Yeah, sure.
And Og.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Oh yeah, of course there is. It's the third task.
Yes. So Ron, Hermione, they're helping out Harry get ready for this. They know what's gonna take place. It's gonna be a maze. There's gonna be obstacles. So they're doing everything they can to help Harry prepare with different hexes and spells and everything else to be as prepared as a dumb 14-year-old boy could possibly be.
That's the plan.
And I appreciate this. They found a 4-point spell.
Yeah, that was something Hermione stumbled across.
Sure. Where it makes it turns your wand into a compass and it points due north when you use it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I'm guessing maybe even something as simple as a compass might go haywire with all the magic around.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it would.
Like, even though it's not electronic, it just feels like it would get messed up.
The magnetic field around Hogwarts is definitely off kilter. Yeah. And then a jelly-legged Jinx. What a fantastic name for something.
Yes, you can definitely picture that one.
Yeah, and I also appreciate that they were able to use it without knowing how to undo it.
Yeah,
because of course they do.
Come on,
right?
Hermione. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's the first thing. Like, you look up the solution before you get the jinx him. Like, it's called a jinx. I mean, what did she think? She was never going to hit him?
She knew what she was doing.
Exactly.
She knew. Harry was just like, oh yeah, let's do this. And no, she knew. She knew what was going on. She got a good laugh out of it.
I'm sure she did.
It was just such a fantastic name for something that I just adored that. But like all this preparation and everything, like this is like the montage, like the training montage of like Rocky or every other sports movie where it's like they're getting ready for like the big final game or match or whatever. Makes me extremely nervous that all of this training and hard work is going to lead to something I'm not ready to take on. I don't know. I wasn't sure, but I definitely had like just a weird feeling in my gut of, man, JK's putting a lot of work into describing like how good Harry is getting at these spells and jinxes and curses, and like that kind of worries me, like he might be over prepared. But not knowing what was everything that was going to entail, I couldn't worry too much. But it just, that feeling that you get,
But like, I think this is where you have to take into account again that Harry wasn't supposed to be in this competition.
Right.
It was all supposed to be like 17 and 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
So basically 6th and 7th years. And so he's already a couple years behind the curve.
Right.
Like, so some of these jinxes and hexes and protection spells and stuff like that, like, that might be stuff a 6th or 7th year would have learned by that point.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't necessarily say Harry's overprepared. I think he might just be catching up.
Yeah. It was all going too well for him. That made me nervous.
I mean, yeah, he did learn a lot of stuff very well. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like you said, this is something kind of that montage where we're flying past who knows how much time. Because, like you said, the third task kind of came up out of nowhere. You weren't quite expecting it yet.
Right.
They have been studying these for months.
Yeah. I guess without seeing the constant failures and the struggles that he had.
Exactly.
This was just all written as boom, boom, boom. He's just picking up on everything, one after another.
Yeah.
Which is Harry Potter. I mean, he knows Patronus charm. He's capable of doing some pretty hefty magic.
And he does have Hermione Granger teaching him.
Yes. But at the same time, all of the success that was in this montage just worried me that it was going too well.
Sure.
Nothing ever goes that well for Harry Potter.
No.
Question.
Yes.
Screech owls.
Okay.
What would happen if a screech owl delivered a howler? Would that be too much noise for the Great Hall to handle?
For the sake of your question, I'll say yes.
I forgot that screech owls existed until it was written into this chapter, and then I was just like, man, those are fairly loud birds when they get going. Could you imagine those things delivering a howler? Like, I feel like there would just be just chaos.
Sure.
Again, the weird things that go on in my head when reading this book, Matt.
Yep, you never know.
So we learned that Harry Potter is disturbed and dangerous.
Well, according to Rita Skeeter, which who knows how much we believe out of that.
Right. I mean, we all know, my hatred for Rita Skeeter since day one, how deep it goes. I will say, though, how off is she when describing Harry Potter as disturbed and dangerous?
There's probably more truth to it than some of her other articles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the context might need to be skewed a little bit, but, like, being a dumb 14-year-old boy that is so reckless, like, he is kind of dangerous. Like,
oh, yeah. Dangerous to be around. I mean, ask Ron and Hermione.
Like, yeah. And Ginny Weasley and...
Neville, once in a while, kind of.
Professor Quirrell and Lockhart, and like the growing list of people that end up not so well when dealing directly with or around Harry Potter.
Sure,
he's kind of a wrecking ball. Disturbed. I mean, he has some demons, definitely. Like he's working through some things. So like, yeah, I mean, the headline was definitely more negative than it probably should have been. But like you said, there's a lot more truth into it than a lot of people will probably admit to.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah, like you want to call it clickbait.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like. That's the thing with a good headline. It has just enough truth.
Sure.
To, that like it's true, but it's ever so slightly skewed in a way that, yeah.
There has to be enough there to where it has some morsel of credibility so that the next time something comes out, you're just like, well, last one's kind of true, so maybe this one might be kind of true also.
Yep.
If they're just flat out bold-faced lies, obviously you lose credibility immediately, and nobody's reading going forward because it's just like it's a lie, it's all a lie, it's all fake, it's all fabricated, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of interesting word choices going on here. But the main question is like, how we haven't figured this out. How is Rita Skeeter knowing all the things that she knows?
Yeah.
This is a weird little mystery that's going on that I wouldn't expect to be thinking about so much.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
Yep. The line that catches me the most in this article is, it says something like, this reporter witnessed Potter storming from the class.
Right.
Like, no, you didn't. You weren't there. You were not in her class.
Or was she?
Where was she?
I don't know, Matt. I don't know. There are eyes all over Hogwarts. I don't know which pair might be hers.
Well, like you said, I think we've covered Dumbledore won't allow her back on the grounds.
Her? But what if she took the form of something else? Animagus.
Okay.
We don't know.
Would you like to elaborate on this?
I suspect that she possibly could be an animal at Hogwarts.
So there was an animal in the room?
I mean, we could go like as far as to like, I mean, her last name is Skeeter.
Okay.
She could be as small as a mosquito, as far as I know. Buzzing around, kind of just there. A fly on the wall, Matt. That old expression of, I wish I was a fly on the wall for that.
Sure.
She could totally, literally be a fly on the wall.
that I could see JK doing that.
I mean, obviously she's not going to be like a very unusual, like she's not going to like turn herself into a unicorn and just prance around Hogwarts, because that would be, people would have questions for Hagrid at that point.
Sure.
But like if she could turn into something small, small enough to where she could get the scoops on things. Like, and I don't know, like, how being an animal would be able to, like, record the events that she's witnessing. Like, would she have to do it from memory after the fact? I mean, does her quill shrink down tiny size to whatever, size she is, or what animal she turns into? I don't know. I don't know all those details. But she's around all the time. We've kind of decided that there's no way she could be using any sort of, like, spy technology, because electronics don't work anywhere near Hogwarts.
Yep.
So maybe it's something that we don't even know about yet. But all I know is that I know people can turn into animals. I don't know if they could turn into insects. Like, I don't know how far down that food chain you could go. But we don't know anything about Rita,
Yeah, I mean, we know she's a reporter, and she gets the scoop.
A fly on the wall, Matt. A fly on the wall.
Your new favorite phrase.
We'll find out. We will find out eventually, I'm sure of it. Hermione seems to think that she might know what's going on.
Yeah, Hermione you kind of see a light bulb go on.
Yeah.
And, like, she does it in very Hermione style and doesn't tell anyone what she's thinking.
No.
Just runs away.
Yeah.
Probably to the library.
Yep.
But I think.
And the best part about that is Ron is still surprised by this action.
Well, I think if anything, he's probably kind of, like, frustrated. It's like, will you stop running off in the middle of a sentence? Like,
No.
Come back here and tell us what you're thinking.
She's never going to stop doing that. That is Hermione to a T. That is her. That is what she does. Accept this at this point, Ron. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to, like, change her. You're not going to. She's a strong-headed little girl. And she is going to do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, however she wants to do it.
All right.
I appreciate that about her. I respect that.
Sure.
Then we got some very unsettling news.
Yeah.
Family visit for the champions.
It's family week.
I was getting, like, cold sweats here. And I was convincing myself over and over again there is no way, no chance at all that the Dursleys were going to be at Hogwarts, right? This is the most ridiculous thing that you could possibly think of.
But could you imagine?
Yes, I could, and that's what scared me.
But that would be a show in and of itself. Like, watching Vernon and Petunia at Hogwarts, like, squirming the entire time, just so uncomfortable when people are just flaunting magic all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that would be so good.
Now, like, the initial, like, part of the visit, like, they would be in, like, chambers and kind of private and secluded, so, like, they would be able to, like, handle that.
Yep.
For one, I don't think they would come optionally. I think they would be forced or pressured into, like, you have to come type of thing. Like Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah. Dumbledore would, yeah.
Or Mad-Eye went, or even Hagrid, or somebody, was like, you're coming with me. But there was, like, this, it was, like, so unrealistic that would happen, but I wanted it to for the sake of the story, and I didn't at the same time, because I was just like, this is going to be the most miserable experience of Harry Potter's life. Like, this is going to be a flat-out disaster. How is he supposed to compete in this third and final task, knowing that the awful, awful Dursleys are there watching, quote-unquote, him, and definitely not supporting him,
Yeah, but he could show off what he could do to them now.
I don't think he would. Like, I think he wants to, but I still don't think he has that in him, without being triggered in some way.
Yeah.
I was just miserable thinking, like, this is going to be so bad. Just so bad. Biggest sigh of relief in 4 books I've breathed, Matt.
Yeah.
Wasn't the Dursleys.
No, not at all.
It was the Weasleys.
There you go.
Thank goodness. I was ecstatic. So amazing that whoever had the foresight to go with, his pretty much adoptive family at this point instead of his actually adopted family.
I'm
probably
pretty
Dumbledore,
sure.
right?
Yeah, like just about anyone. Like Dumbledore would know that. I think McGonagall would even understand that, even though she I don't know how much contact she's had with the Weasleys. I mean,
she's
Weasley
taught
boys coming through school.
every
Sure.
Weasley for years now.
But yeah, Hagrid would understand that. I wouldn't even put it past Moody to understand that.
Right.
Like we know Mad-Eye and Arthur know each other from the Ministry type of stuff. So, I mean, there's enough connections there that they'd all put it together.
Yeah. And, maybe Snape would surprise me, and maybe he'd be the one responsible. Not a chance that's going to happen, but he would, maybe, but not likely. So yeah, I was just ecstatic to see the Weasleys. Kind of funny that Bill Weasley is kind of a ladies' man. He's the oddball in the family. He's
a little bit.
One of these is not like the other type of situation, and it seems to be working well for him.
Well, Fleur turning on the charm again.
It was just nice seeing the Weasley family. My only concern was Ron suddenly becoming jealous that they came to see Harry. I know he's kind of gotten past the fact that Harry's competing in this, and he didn't put his name in it, and he wasn't trying to upstage Ron, and he's even stepped back to let Ron kind of take some of the glory. But I still kind of worried that there would be a little bit of resentment there still, and Ron seeing his whole family make a special trip to Hogwarts to cheer on Harry in his competition.
Yeah, but I can also see if he started giving him an attitude, like his mom was there to slap some sense into him.
Yeah.
I can see that. It's like,
oh yeah,
Ronald, what do you? No, come on.
It was just that possibility of like, oh, I don't want this bitterness between the two to come back again. Like, let's not have this happen. So
yeah, I
was relieved that it didn't go that route, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it did, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Mr. Diggory is insufferable still.
Of course.
Yeah. He just thinks his son is the bee's knees, and he's a proud papa, maybe a little too proud, maybe a little too boisterous about it, but so be it, I guess. Let's see. Percy. We learned that Percy is under investigation.
Yep.
He's not allowed to work. They're trying to figure out what he knows about what communication he's had with Mr. Crouch and how legit that was. Percy is losing his mind at this point, right?
Yeah.
Not being able to work and be,
when you tell someone who's married to his job that he can't do his job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to turn out well.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we talked about this before, but I need to state it once again, Matt.
Okay.
The Goblin Rebels, I absolutely need a backstory on this.
Yeah. It's not the first time. Like I said, the Goblin Rebellions have come up before, so.
Because in my head, like, all the goblins are bankers.
Sure.
So, like, I'm curious what the rebellion would look like, It stresses me out that she puts all these fun little things in here just to add, world building, environmental things. Completely ancillary. They don't add to the story at all, but it just makes me want more of everything.
Sure.
Which is probably why she created Pottermore, right?
I would think so. Basically.
Because of all this nonsense.
because there is so much to cover.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the third task.
Okay.
Okay. I wasn't sure because it wasn't really explained. We found out later on that if you do send up the red sparks, they had 4 professors circling around the hedge maze. There was Dumbledore, McGonagall, Moody? No.
Yes.
Was Moody one of them?
I think so.
And Snape the other?
No, Hagrid.
Hagrid. Okay.
Yeah, Hagrid was in there.
Yeah. Patrolling around looking for distress signals. I assumed it was kind of implied that, like, if you sent up your distress signal and you needed rescuing out of the maze, that would be the end of it.
Just to fix this, otherwise I know someone will correct me. It was Hagrid, Professor Moody, Professor McGonagall, and Professor Flitwick.
Flitwick, okay. Obviously, because Dumbledore is a judge.
Yes.
That makes sense. How's Flitwick helping anybody?
What do you mean?
Isn't Flitwick tiny?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he knows his magic. He's a fully qualified wizard.
I guess. Again, Matt, 4 books in, haven't got a lot of Flitwick information. I don't know what Flitwick is capable of.
Fair enough.
I just need more on the professors, Matt.
All right. We'll work on it.
We learned way too much about Lockhart when we definitely could have been learning about Sprout and Flitwick and Binns and, all the other professors I'm dying to know about.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
All right.
So yeah, it wasn't 100% clear that if you sent up a distress signal and you got rescued, if you were done with the competition or not. Like, that was like an automatic DQ, essentially.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it definitely is, which makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it always bothers me, though, that, like, I always thought that they would trace it back to whose ever wand sent out the red sparks.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why when we get into this and, like, Harry sends it up for someone else.
Right.
Like, but
then again, like, if he sent it up for somebody else who didn't need help, like, they wouldn't stay in that spot waiting to be rescued.
Yeah. I mean, so like, they go to where the red sparks were.
Right.
But
like, if you were still able to defend yourself and you were still good, you could just, like, look at him and be like, yo, I don't need help. I'm good. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But if you're paralyzed and you're not able to talk, obviously you probably need help. Yeah.
But, I mean, if Harry's not in there, no one else is sending up red sparks for anybody else. Harry's the only one that would be willing to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I just hope that maybe, like, you'd get to, like, restart at the beginning of the maze. Like, it would be your punishment. Like, we'll get you out of this tough spot, and we'll drop you back at the beginning, and you could continue on, and maybe you'll get lucky. Like, maybe it'll still work out for you, but...
Yeah. But, I mean, you see, that this is one of those things where they've said in past years there have been deaths in the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah.
We saw it in the first task. The dragons easily could have killed someone.
Mm-hmm.
The second task, maybe not so much, unless you get in a bad spot with a mermaid or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But then in this task,
or your bubble charm wears off and you drown.
Sure. You're at the bottom of the lake and it wears off. But yeah, this is something like I said, if you don't send up red sparks in time and you get attacked and get knocked out and get eaten by some creature, who knows?
Yeah.
That's where some of these deaths could come from.
Right. It got interesting real quick, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it was a slow start. I'm not gonna lie.
It's true. Well, like Harry said, the lack of obstacles was unnerving.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that would be super frightening. Like, okay, this is going way too smooth. Am I even in the right maze? Like, a lot of things could be, Yeah, especially when they're led to believe that it seemed like around every turn there would be something that you'd have to fight off or defend. So yeah, I could definitely see why it would be like, okay, imagine going to a haunted house and then like walking for several minutes and nothing is popping out and nothing.
Like the first half of the haunted house is just empty.
Yeah, like
you walk through the hallway and
the longer it went, the more your anxiety would just build up. And could you imagine like that first jump scare though after 10, 15 minutes?
And I think that's kind of what they were going for. It's like get you to let your guard down.
Yeah.
Like, of course you're expecting something right away, but if you go around, 2, 3, 4, 10 corners and you don't see anything, it's like you start relaxing, and then around that 11th corner, something can come and get you, and you're not going to be ready for it.
I'm going to make this haunted house, trademark it right now.
There you go.
I'm doing this. Like, just the first half is just empty corridors, and you're just walking around. And they could maybe, like, drop a sound every once in a while just to, like, let people know that there's still a chance, Like, there's still something there. Amazing things are happening in this podcast, Matt. We're going to have a Tales from Godric's Hollow themed haunted house this Halloween.
I like it.
In Eau Claire, Wisconsin, the Halloween capital of America.
It is now.
Actually, I think it's Halloween Town, which was filmed about 45 minutes from me.
Really?
Yeah. Have you seen that movie?
Maybe once a long time ago.
Yeah, old Disney movie. They made a couple sequels.
Yeah.
It was shot in this little tiny town in Oregon. But every Halloween, like, that is their big thing, is to celebrate the fact that,
of course,
their town was Halloween Town.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Big to-dos. So the Scroots, they are in the maze.
I believe you called that one.
I think I did. It seemed like we had to have some culmination of the Scroots.
Like we had the Scroots throughout the entire book, basically.
Right.
Like they kept getting mentioned, and then you find out there's going to be this maze that's going to have obstacles. I'm like, well, what would be a better obstacle than this creature we know nothing about?
Right. I could think of one.
Yeah?
A boggart.
It's true. I think you called that one as well.
I think I even called a boggart posing as a Dementor.
Well, I mean, it's only going to be a Dementor for Harry.
Well, sure.
But, because, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, for anybody else, they'd see something else. And, well, Cedric might have an idea because I'm guessing Lupin probably kind of covered it with all his classes while he was there. But, like, who knows what it would turn into for Crumb or Fleur, and if they even knew what it was.
Yeah. No idea.
Like, that's one of those things I always kind of wonder if it's standard curriculum.
Sure.
Like, are Boggart's standard curriculum? I mean, different schools can have different curriculum, sure, but it just...
Well, they might have learned about them, but would they have been able to experience them and learn how to fight them off?
Exactly. Like it feels to me like that was something that Lupin stumbled across, and it's like, yeah, this would be a good lesson.
Yeah, I mean, did he say he just found it in a wardrobe,
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't feel like it was part of the lesson plan.
Right.
It just something he stumbled across, and so, like, yeah, those students lucked out. And and it's like you said, like, when I think we know when, like, Ron sees it, it turns into a giant spider.
Mm-hmm.
So we see later that we run into a giant spider.
Yeah.
So what's to say, like, if Crumb runs into it and he sees a giant spider, why would he think it's not a giant spider?
Right. Yeah.
He would have no reason.
Maybe it was for Cedric. Like, Cedric and Harry were, at the same time when that spider popped up. If it appeared for Cedric first in the form of a spider, because Cedric is deathly afraid of spiders, which he may be, I don't know. It's possible that's what it was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. We know it wasn't. But it could have been.
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine the weird sensation of suddenly being upside down.
Yeah. This one, I don't know. I'm never quite sure what to think of it. Like, I guess I guess I'm trying to think of what whoever implemented this in the maze was expecting. Like, how are you expecting the student to react?
Yeah.
Because like Harry's reaction seems like the only reaction, unless you just completely give up and you completely freeze and just stand there until somebody else wins,
Right.
or you send up red sparks from that spot. I guess maybe. Like I can't really come up with other solutions than trying to walk.
Maybe it's just meant to just slow you down. Like
I suppose.
not everything is meant to completely kill you or take you out of the game, but like,
Yeah,
it is a race after all. So
Yeah.
that would definitely be something. I mean, like, it was discussed where Harry was like sitting there, like very hesitant to lift his foot up, because if he does, is he going to go crashing down? Is gravity, like, how is this working?
Especially, yeah, since like his glasses were like dangerously close to falling off.
Yeah.
It sounded like. So yeah, if you take one foot off, does your other foot release as well?
Right. So I mean, that would definitely be like a slow down hazard, which when
Sure.
you're racing other people, seconds is money, man. So just fascinating, interesting little thing that we haven't experienced, but it was a fun little thought of like the different ways this maze could trap you.
Didn't know that could happen.
Yeah. Then things got real.
Yeah.
Crumb attacked Cedric with an unforgivable curse.
Very true.
This is not cool.
No.
This is not okay. Crumb amplified this competition to a whole new level. This is where I was kind of conflicted, because Harry looked at this as like, this makes Crumb, like a villain, a bad guy, But these kids are also under so much pressure to win this competition. Not just for themselves, but their house and, their school, their headmistresses or headmasters, like, their families are there. Like, they have so much pressure to win. I want to say that, like, it didn't upset me probably as much as it should have that Crumb used an unforgivable curse on Cedric. Now, he obviously didn't kill him. He didn't go to the bottom of the pile of unforgivable curses.
Yeah.
But I kind of understand why he had to do it, or why he felt that it was necessary. He knows it was wrong. He knows that that's not an okay thing to do. He knows it's illegal. But you kind of start feeling like you're running out of options, I'm sure. Like when you see somebody who's clearly better than you, like you have to take shortcuts sometimes. And yeah, I'm not condoning his actions, but I'm not as upset about them as Harry was.
Okay. Like, I see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
yeah, it was a bad thing. It was, maybe he stooped too low. But in the heat of the moment, again, with like everything going on and that insane amount of pressure, because Igor is just laying in on him on a daily basis about, you're the champion, you have to win for Durmstrang. This is about pride. This is about, victory. This is he's hearing that every waking breath that he's there. Like, that has to kind of affect you in some way. Or maybe he's just a bad dude. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit here. I mean, I never really fully trusted him to begin with. Let's be real here. But I'm just saying, I kind of understand and have a little empathy for him.
okay.
Especially because he didn't kill Cedric, right? It was...
Well, because Harry showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what's to say what he would have done?
Sure. I mean, if Cedric died here, then this is a completely different situation. Like, I'm talking about Crumb in a completely different way here.
Sure.
So the fact that he didn't, I'm just like, okay, let's move on. You know.
Yeah.
There's worse things that could happen. But, you know, Harry, he's going to look after his new BFF, Cedric. And he you know, took Crumb down. And I'm quite impressed with his magical ability to do so.
Sure.
And that brought us down to 2. There's 2 champions left. Cedric and Harry. Because Fleur Delacour, like, she was out a long time ago. Who knows
Yeah,
what
she's
happened
gone.
with her? She was out of the running a long time ago, let's be real. She had no chance of winning this thing.
Yeah.
She's too pretty to win something like this.
Yep.
Then we ran into a creature that I could once again say was completely caught off guard and surprised by.
Yeah.
Did not think that we'd be running into a Sphinx.
Yeah, it's of all the creatures, like, it's one of those that you've heard of before.
Yeah.
But like most of the ones we've heard of before that have shown up in this book, I guess I wasn't really surprised to see them.
Sure.
I wouldn't necessarily say I expected to see them, but
Right.
wasn't really surprised by them.
They always seem to fit the situation.
Yes. But then the Sphinx right in the middle of this, I'm like, huh. But I mean, the more you think about it, like you said, it's all about time. And the Sphinx is kind of the perfect enemy for wasting time.
Yeah.
Whether you stop and try to figure out the riddle, whether you try to fight it, which is a bad idea, or whether you try to find a way around, because obviously the Sphinx is guarding the shortest path.
Right.
So yeah, it's a big time waster, no matter how you look at it.
This is the equivalent of a troll bridge, right?
Sure.
You cannot pass unless you complete the riddle at hand. But we all already know that trolls are too dumb to do something like this, so leave it to the Sphinx, I guess. I do appreciate that Harry was just like, I'm going to try something here real quick before we get into it. Will you just move, please? Yeah. I can't argue with him at least trying, because how dumb would he have felt if, like, he looked back and he saw Cedric just be like, hey, will you move? And Sphinx like, yeah, sure, go ahead,
Well, I mean, you have to figure, too, Harry has probably never seen a Sphinx before.
Right.
Probably doesn't really know what they're all about. Yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe they're super polite. Maybe you have to bow to them like a hippogriff,
Exactly.
We don't know the Sphinx culture. So I applaud Harry for at least trying.
It never hurts to ask.
No. Yeah, wasted a couple seconds, sure, but,
If it would have worked, risk reward.
Yeah.
It would have paid off. It would have been great, yeah.
Unless that was like, the key word to just trigger it and set it off into a fit of rage.
Never ask a Sphinx, please. Don't use the magic word.
Which is just weird enough to actually be possible in this world.
Yes.
So the riddle at hand, I was trying to work out the riddle with Harry.
Of course.
Yeah, once I got the D, I was just like, oh no. Why are we back on spiders? What? There is no need for spiders in this third task, Matt.
There's always room for spiders.
We have come a long ways since worrying about spiders. And they just keep popping up.
Yep.
So they answer the riddle with spider. Path is open, they're running, and then all of a sudden, spider jumps out of nowhere, tackles old Cedric, and it's on. It's a battle with the spider. I have a hard time with these, and I'm not looking forward to the movie with this. Like, this is not going to be pretty. It's Not ready, Matt. I'm not ready. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do, huh? They team
We're
up.
just gonna keep plowing forward.
They team up. They take down the spider. Hurrah! Hurrah! Harry's hurt, and Cedric.
Broken leg, not just. I mean, it's not like he sprained his arm or something. Like,
I mean, he did lose bones before, so like in the realm of how hurt he is, like.
Yeah, but like a broken leg.
Okay, sure.
Severely impairs his mobility, I guess is what I'm going after. Like, if it's anywhere on the upper body, yeah, he could power through. But, like, to hop along on one leg would be a lot more difficult.
Sure. That's when things got tense. And that's when I started, like, losing my mind. Like, if this was, like, if I watched this first, like, I would have been, like, yelling at the TV for how this was all playing out. Like, just so mad at things. Like, I'd be, like, crying tears of joy, and it's all emotional, and I'd be angry and shaking my fist and cheering, and, like, this entire roller coaster of emotions is going on here, because Cedric's a good guy. Cedric's a Hufflepuff, and, you know, he can't, in good conscience, in good faith, just walk on to victory knowing that Harry Potter is sitting there with a broken leg, unable to continue.
Sure.
Harry's helped him too much. And that's when these two dumb boys start getting into this humble brag one-upsmanship of, you know, well,
it's so annoying so fast.
You did this for me. And it's like, well, no, but you did this for me. But no, I didn't actually do this. But yeah, I didn't actually do this. But, oh my God, you two, shut up. Kiss and make up and let's move here. You know, like, it was. There was going to be a breaking point at some point, and I was losing my mind between these two.
Yeah. This is the point in the movie when they're trying to defuse the bomb, and they're about to cut the wire, and then they break out into an argument over something that happened earlier in the movie. Right. Like, no, take care of the bomb first.
Well, you're better at diffusing bombs. Yeah, but you have the trust of the captain. But you've been doing this longer. But you're rescuing your love interest, and just shut up, you two. Just shut up, Cedric. At this point, I'm just do it for Hufflepuff. Just do it. Harry is insisting. Look, he could do this tournament again theoretically if they have it again. I don't know how often this happens. Cedric, win it for Hufflepuff. No. And this whole thing is just playing, and the only thing I'm thinking about is, does the audience see all of this going on? Can they see over the hedges, or do they have a top-down view of this thing?
Well, you see, and that's where it's a little confusing, because like, they say they're like 20-foot high hedges.
Yeah.
But this is on the Quidditch field.
And the stands are way up there.
In theory, yeah. So maybe.
And Ludo's announcing. Is he announcing this? Like, is he like, oh, and Harry drops another humble brag, and then Cedric, rebutes his claim with another humble brag.
Once again, it would be much better if we had Lee Jordan.
100%.
But
100%.
After seeing the second task and very much assuming, I think, and rightly so, that they didn't get to see what was going on, it's like you question whether or not they get to see this part.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just like we send them off into the maze and wait till one of them comes back with the cup.
Well, they ultimately decide that they're going to tie.
Yep.
They're going to hobble Harry down to the cup together, and they get to the cup, and they count to 3, and they are going to place their hands on the cup at the exact same time, because this works all the time when this happens.
Yep.
It is going to be a dead even tie, even though there is clearly magic involved. That could be a quick tiebreaker if need be, down to the infinite milliseconds to determine who touched it first.
Sure.
Good on paper. It's a good idea on paper. But then they both reach for it, They both grab it. This is a beautiful moment, Matt. This is just tears are just running down my face here. I'm just like, Harry won, Cedric won, Hogwarts won. Everybody's a winner here. I don't know what happened. You cut off the chapter, Matt.
I didn't cut anything off. That was the end of the chapter.
The most
Hogwarts wins.
unfair way to end a chapter I have seen yet.
Well, something to look forward to.
Another week, Matt.
Yep.
I have no idea what's going to happen. I would like to think it's a tie straight across the board. They were tied in points going into it. They both put their hand on the cup at the same time. That means they both tied. It's too buttoned up perfectly for me to accept that this is the way that it's going to go down. We're not far enough into the book yet for good things to keep happening, to start happening.
Okay.
The bad is not out of the way yet. It's too much right now, Matt.
All right.
What will happen next week? I don't know, but I have to wait a whole week, and so does everybody else out there listening.
Sure.
Even though, let's be real.
Everybody else already knows.
Everybody knows what is going to happen. But next week I will too. Hopefully. Unless we do like weird flashback chapters and who knows, that would be horrendous. I don't even want to think about the possibilities. That was this week's chapters.
That was.
That was a lot.
It was a lot to go through, but you made it.
Yeah. I think this would be a good time, though, to cover one little fun thing that we do. It's called the Muggle Poll.
It's true.
Every week, every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific time, over on Twitter, at Tales from GH. You post the weekly Muggle Poll. You give people the opportunity to vote on a topic, a question that you come up with regarding the week's reading, and you give them some possible choices, and it's basically just our little experiment to see what the audience is thinking and feeling about things that we're learning and discovering as a group.
Yep.
It's a social experiment, essentially.
Yeah.
So what would you have for us in the Muggle Poll this week?
All right. This week's Muggle Poll relating to the third task. I want to know which trial would give you the most trouble in the maze.
Now, before we go any further,
okay,
this would be the point where I need to pull a Cedric Diggory, and I need to have a little humble brag. Because after we finished the reading last night, me and Valerie, we were sitting on the couch, and she was like, hey, can you do me a favor and remind me or let me know when the Muggle Poll goes live? You know, it goes up pretty much the same time every week.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? Sure. I'll shoot you a text of, letting you know the Muggle Poll is up, and, not a big thing for me to do. It's not out of my way too much. So she's like, thank you. And I said, if I know Matt by now, we're 47 episodes into this little podcast that we're doing here, and we've done one or two of these Muggle polls. If I was a betting man, I feel pretty confident in thinking that Matt is going to ask something along the lines of, which would you not want to experience in the maze if you were to come across, and then list several of the obstacles that we experienced in this third task. And Val just laughed and she said, if that's true, I am definitely sending Matt a message to tell him that you predicted it.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. Most every other week, I have no clue what you're going to do. You pull some oddball questions out of the air sometimes. This one, I felt pretty confident in knowing which direction you'd go.
Yeah. it's one of those that it made a lot of sense. The question kind of wrote itself.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I did not get a message from Val, so you can yell at her for that.
Yeah, I will definitely let her know that she did not live up to her end of the bargain.
But, yeah. So, congratulations once again.
I'm starting to know you, Matt. That means next week you have to be way out there with what you go with.
All right.
I actually never really put much thought into it, to be honest. Like, I never sit there and be like, wonder what Matt's going to do. There's a few times I've thought about it, and I don't dwell on it for too long. But this one, like, instantly I was just like, oh, I know exactly what Matt's... I know what I would do, and I'm really hoping Matt would do the same.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, speaking of things you called, I think you even called the end of the maze being a tie.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you did.
I mean, that sounds like something I'd do, just on a whim.
Like, I'm pretty sure that was one of your many predictions you threw out there.
I think it was me just being very hopeful because I didn't want either one of them to lose.
Yeah.
Was that something along the lines?
I'm pretty sure you did, yeah.
But see, here's the thing, Matt. We don't know what the ending is yet. Is it a tie? Is it really a tie?
They said first one to the cup wins.
Yeah, but Matt, like, you just left me with, like, lights and whirling sounds and shenanigans going on when they both grab the cup. I don't know what all that's going to, happen.
What does that sound like?
I don't know. I want to say victory.
You've gotten that description before.
I know, Matt.
Is that the beginning of this book? Surprise, surprise.
We'll find out. Anyway,
right.
What were the four choices you gave people on this Muggle Bowl?
4 choices this week were the Blast and its Scroot, the Boggart, the Sphinx's Riddle, or the Giant Spider.
What did the people say?
We ended up with 41% for the Giant Spider.
The people are smart.
Yeah?
Yeah. Nobody wants to mess with a giant spider. Let's be real.
I mean, I can see that. That was probably my second.
Yeah. What was your first?
The Scroot.
Really?
Yeah. It's so unknown. You just don't know what to do with it. It can blast you, but it sounds like I said, it has like armor.
Yeah.
Like your spells just bounce off of it. Like, I mean, I think that thing would scare me more than a giant spider. As much as I hate spiders, like I would feel more confident, I think, fighting a spider.
Okay. I understand, but I'm actually quite surprised that Boggart came in last.
Yeah.
Just because, like you said, like if you've never really experienced Boggarts before, how would you know that the thing that you just encountered that is like your worst fear is actually just a Boggart and not actually your worst fear?
Well, I think that depends a little bit on what your fear is. Like I said, if it was Ron in there and you just see a giant spider, it's going to be tougher to tell, I think, than... I mean, even Harry's turning into a Dementor, it was kind of tough to tell until he tried. Like, he knew how to fight that. So he tried, and it didn't seem to affect it quite right. Yeah. So had he not been quick on his feet and realized what was going on, it could be a completely different story.
Right.
If he just freaked out about it. But I think if someone, walks in there and sees, like, a clown or something, like, that's going to seem so out of place, I think.
Sure.
Or if, like I said, was it Neville? If Professor Snape showed up in the middle of the maze, like, that doesn't, like, something would seem off about that, I think. And as much as you're afraid of it, I think just that little, it's like, I don't think that they'd put that in this maze.
Sure.
Might give you a little bit of a hint.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, with the adrenaline pumping and the running around and not really thinking as clearly as you probably want to be thinking, like if you come across your greatest fear, I think you'd have some hesitation before like trying to figure out how to proceed with that.
Sure.
more so than with everything else. But I get it. Giant spiders, like I voted for giant spider too. So
yeah, a lot of giant spiders. We got 30% for the riddle, which I did. I kind of hoped that one would be up higher because like that's what I tried to emphasize with the what would give you the most trouble, and that's why I specifically said the riddle, not just the Sphinx.
Sure.
I mean, because one of the options with the Sphinx was to just walk the other way.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you went in and had to try to figure out that riddle, would that give you some trouble?
Yeah. I think so. Depends how good you are at riddles.
Exactly.
And how much time you wanted to mess with it.
And that's one of those things, like, I like to think I'm pretty good at riddles, at least.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it would give me too much trouble, but
Matt,
who knows?
Matt, your Ravenclaw showing.
Thanks.
No, this is interesting. There's a lot of different things that you would probably not want to encounter in this task. So, thank you to everybody for voting and participating. It's always fun to see what you guys are thinking and feeling out there. So,
absolutely.
With that being said,
yes,
it's time for personally my favorite part of the show.
Yeah,
emails.
Yeah.
If we
suppose we have a few of those.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple.
Okay, thank goodness.
All right. First email this week comes from Katie.
Katie
says, "Hi guys. Finals are almost over. I'm passing high-speed court reporting tests like crazy.
Woohoo.
Yet I read these chapters and can't be totally happy because I'm crying over Neville. His story is just so sad. That aside, though, do you guys have any thoughts on why Dumbledore decided to share this very sensitive information with Harry? Besides the obvious fact that J.K. was a meanie and wanted to make the whole world cry. I mean, why couldn't Dumbledore have said, it's not really my place to tell you, Harry?
Because I took it as Dumbledore kind of humbling Harry a little bit, maybe it's a life lesson, it was kind of meant to say sometimes you need to slow down and you need to learn about the things that are closest to you. And you don't need to try to solve the world of its problems when you're not even extending that energy to the people that you sleep with, in the same room with. You haven't put that much energy into helping or understanding even.
Yeah.
So I think this was definitely meant to just kind of make Harry think about his actions and just a little bit,
Yeah. It's a moment that makes me think everybody's going through something.
Yeah. Perfect way to say it.
Like everybody is always going through something.
Yeah.
You just don't always know about it.
Yeah.
And so Dumbledore was just, I mean, he instead of just speaking in generic terms, he gave Harry one example.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he knew he could trust Harry to keep that a secret too.
Yeah. Well, because he knows Harry would take it seriously. Because, like you said earlier, it kind of puts him and Neville in the same position as far as, they're bringing up. And, now Harry suddenly has way more in common with Neville Longbottom than he ever thought he would. For many different reasons. You know?
Yeah.
So, maybe this will go on to make, Harry treat Neville differently.
Sure. She continues, random side note, I forgot about the golden mist stuff in the maze. It sounds terrifying. Sort of like missing a step while going downstairs, only way worse. Even more random side note. I was looking through some of my old Braille books because I wanted to donate them to distribution programs for blind children. I found my first ever copies of the Harry Potter books, and man, are they in terrible shape. They are very loved, but sadly not donatable. Most of
Worn
them
down
are
too much, huh?
Yeah, most of them are falling apart, and I think I may have spilled orange juice on one of them. Orange juice Braille is very hard to read.
Probably a little sticky, maybe?
Well, I'm sure it messes with all the bumps, too.
Yeah.
Creates some new ones.
Uh-huh.
So.
Or eliminate some.
She says, this email is getting silly, so I'm going to end it here. Josh, prepare yourself for the next few chapters. It's going to get interesting.
I wasn't prepared for these two chapters. I was not expecting these two to go where they did. So I'm roller coaster of emotions at this point all around. I cannot brace myself for what's about to happen.
Fair enough.
But I'll try. Thank you.
All right, next email from Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
It says, hi, Josh and Matt. I guess I should have been more clear in my email last week. I meant that I would have thought Val was giving Josh clues if she hadn't already defended herself on that point.
Okay.
But last week's podcast was more of the same, and Josh is, frankly, scary good on some of his predictions. I'm loving reading Josh's notes now that I'm all caught up. I can just imagine what he's going to say on the podcast, and it makes me even more excited than I already would be for the next episode. So people are loving your notes.
Yeah. Well, the best part about the notes, for the people that don't know, is there are tons of things that I put in the notes that I may want to talk about that we usually don't get around to, or we pass right on by.
Sure.
But it's definitely more in-depth, me play-by-play experiencing the chapters. So there are tons of little tidbits in there that don't make it to the podcast that, a select few people out there get to experience.
Yeah. So for anyone who might just be joining us for the first time and doesn't know what we're talking about, each week Josh takes his notes, the Muggle notes, and we actually make them available to our patrons over on Patreon at the, I think it's $2 or higher level.
I believe so, yeah.
So those go out each week before the show goes live, so you can kind of get a little preview of what Josh, may or may not talk about on the show, but just his kind of instant reactions to the readings, because you take those notes live as Val's reading it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I've gotten a lot of good comments about those notes. People seem to be liking them. So if you like them, if you want to check them out, head over to patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow.
Yeah. And fun fact, I was doing them before we even made them available for people to read. I was just doing it so I could remember everything that I wanted to talk about before we recorded.
But then people wanted to see what you were what you were taking notes on.
Fascinated by the Muggle, man. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
So,
let's see. As for this week's chapters, is Harry too nosy for his own good or what? I was talking to my friend about Harry a few days ago, and she said, the parenthetical subtitle for this whole series should have been The Boy Who Doesn't Know How to Mind His Own Business or Put Two and Two Together. For one, he doesn't know how to leave well enough alone, as we've seen in the first 3 books and again in this week's chapters. And he didn't notice that his friend was a half giant. There's a reason this kid wasn't sorted into Ravenclaw.
That no one sorted into Ravenclaw, but I digress.
You just told me my Ravenclaw was showing.
Look, Matt, if anyone's allowed to contradict himself, it's me on this show.
Hufflepuff.
Strong traits.
And so she was reading your notes too. And does Josh not remember that we've heard about the Department of Mysteries before?
No.
Apparently you made a note about that?
Yeah. I barely remember last week. Let's be real.
Yeah, this is all the way back at the beginning of the book.
I mean, it's probably in my notes. I mean,
I'm sure it is.
The thing is, I don't ever skim through my notes, previous stuff. So if it feels new to me, I'm going to go with it until you correct me, Matt.
Sure. Another instance of poor Neville here. But this part really pulled at my heartstrings. Yeah. I had a grandfather that was diagnosed with liver cancer that couldn't be treated. I remember the last time I saw him on my birthday 6 years ago and how he was practically gone. I mean, he was physically there, but his eyes were blank and he couldn't speak and didn't seem to recognize who I was. That's one of the worst feelings to have someone you love not realize who you are. I can be sympathetic to Neville, and makes me hate Snape even more for being such a jerk to a kid who has to deal with more heartbreak than most people ever experience.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I worked at a retirement home after I graduated high school and was going to college, and dealt with people with dementia and early stages of Alzheimer's, and it's rough. It's tough to. I mean, for me, like they were people that I knew, but it was tough seeing family members come in, like loved ones who, like, were making the effort but just left empty because the person they were visiting just didn't know who they were.
Yeah. My first time through these books, I definitely didn't have quite as much of a connection.
Right.
But since that time, just a few years ago, my grandfather, he developed Alzheimer's, and at first, it wasn't too bad. Once in a while, he might repeat himself in a conversation or something, but eventually it got to the point where he started forgetting people, and in the last couple months before he passed, like, we were lucky if he remembered his kids. Like that was about, like, he would remember his wife and sometimes the kids, but us grandkids, yeah, we were new to him every time.
Yeah.
And it was rough. I mean, like, we all knew who he was, and like it was kind of weird because he was still very polite about it. He's not like, oh, who are you, or it just like he was at a party with people he didn't know necessarily,
right?
And just have polite conversation, but it just it was never the same.
No. Yeah, it sucks. I don't wish that on anybody, but unfortunately it's all too real for too many people, so
yeah.
Poor Neville.
Let's see. She continues, I remember the first time reading the chapter about the third task and being so excited and nervous, and just like Harry. First, we get the Weasleys coming to see Harry. Pretty much the coolest thing in the world for them to do. Then we have Mrs. Weasley. Hermione's not my girlfriend, right? And this, after she told off Mr. Diggory for believing what Rita wrote in the Daily Prophet. Shame on you, Molly. That part always bothers me a little bit too.
Sure.
Because, like, she tells Mr. Diggory not to believe Rita Skeeter, but she's still kind of holding this grudge, all because it's surrounding Harry and his well-being and stuff. Like, kind of a double standard.
Yeah. Maybe
but
she's just like... She's loyal to one publication. She's like, well, if you read it in the Daily Prophet, like, that's kind of questionable. That might be fake news. But if it's in, Witch Weekly, now we're talking about some cutting-edge journalism here.
Sure.
You don't know, like, where she's coming from with that.
Okay.
I think it's more or less just her protecting Harry, though. But...
Yeah. I think I have to go with that, too. I don't think Ron thinks it's weird his family came to see Harry. I think he thinks of him as a brother at this point. And then to stand outside the maze and know that in a little bit of time it's all going to be over and you can stop worrying about the stupid task.
Yeah.
The maze is amazing, pun intended. There were also so many callbacks. The Scroots, the Boggart, spiders, Crumb using Crucio. With the whole asking the Sphinx thing to move, see above about him not being a Ravenclaw.
I mean, again, can you blame the kid for trying?
No, I don't think you can. Like I said, it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
Wasted all of 5 seconds.
Yep.
Worth a shot. Keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Next email from Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Says, these chapters have so much information in them, as well as action from the third and final task. I'm loving your all capital letters in your notes, Josh.
I do use a lot of caps. Shouty caps and exclamation points.
Oh, boy. The number one thing that I want to talk about is the trials that Harry witnessed in the Pensieve. Every time I reread this chapter, I get so sad and angry at the same time. Angry at the Death Eaters that are caught, as well as the proceedings, because to me they do not feel very much like very much justice is being done fairly. Of course, I do think that we're only seeing the final verdict being handed out rather than the evidence being brought against the accused. This scene also makes me sad to think about Neville's parents. I remember on my first read-through thinking, why did I never think about why Neville is being brought up by his grandmother instead of his parents? Neville is such a sweet kid, and I feel so incredibly sad for him that he went through this tragedy and still goes through it every time he goes to visit his parents. Also, Josh, I completely agree with you regarding Snape. Still don't trust him to this day.
Right. Absolutely.
Finally, ready for the third task. I love that Harry keeps Neville's secret as Dumbledore asked him to. I feel like Harry probably feels a connection to Neville that he didn't have before, considering they both grew up not knowing their parents due to Voldemort's reign. Rita is a horrible person. I cannot believe the Daily Prophet would publish such horrible things about Harry without making Rita do some serious fact-checking. Well, we kind of talked about that. It's like, some of the facts, well, they're actually true.
Yeah.
The fact that Mrs. Weasley and Bill come to watch Harry is so special. I really think this makes Harry feel like he can count on himself as part of the family. The third task is probably my favorite task of the three. I think it would be so much fun trying to get past all the creatures and enchantments to get to the Triwizard Cup. Well, except for the spiders.
Exactly.
I absolutely love how Harry and Cedric decide to win the tournament together at the end of the chapter. Ready to celebrate a Hogwarts victory, Josh?
No! Okay. One of them has to win, right? If it's not a tie, one of them has to win.
Those were the rules.
Unless
they made it to the cup.
Yeah, unless if there's a tie, it's a default loser situation. That would be awful.
Yeah,
So,
that wouldn't make sense, though, either.
I assume a Hogwarts victory is on the horizon. I want it to be for both of them co-champions. I feel like this series just knocks you down before it ever picks you back up. So I'm not ready to celebrate quite yet.
Sure. All right. Next email from Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Says, hey, guys, Josh, if I were you, I don't know if I could ever forgive Matt for ending this week's reading the way Chapter 31 ended. I would have to continue reading. I get it, though. There's a lot to digest here. We finally learned that Snape was a Death Eater. Josh, do you think Snape is hating Harry because of his ties to Voldemort? Why do you think Dumbledore trusts him?
I don't know. Because Dumbledore is way too trustworthy or trusting. He's way too trusting in people. And I think he has a good heart and he has good intentions. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's a curse on Dumbledore that it makes him just so happy-go-lucky and joyful and trusting of everybody. I don't know. A curse, a hex, whatever it might be.
We'll find out. Another question. How could Barty Crouch do that to his own son without any real evidence that he was involved?
Power, man. He going for power.
Yeah.
It's a power move.
Basically, yeah, trying to show that he's willing to be just, or at least punish people regardless of connections.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Dumbledore is really smart or really dumb. Look at all the people he gives second chances to. Snape, who's a former Death Eater. Karkaroff, who's a former Death Eater. Hagrid, who was kicked out of school. Newt, who was kicked out of school. he's a really special kind of guy.
I always forget that Newt was kicked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that wasn't brought up in this series.
No, but
I
you
mean,
told me that.
Well, I think Newt mentions that, right?
Did he say he was kicked out?
In Fantastic... Oh, I think that's kind of where it's mentioned, or something like that.
I mean, I know he went to Hogwarts. I don't think he ever said that he was kicked out. Maybe he did. I don't know. Now I want to go watch the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
It's definitely been mentioned. It's not a secret.
Yeah, we know about it.
Somehow.
I totally got the feels when Mrs. Weasley and Bill showed up to support Harry in the final task. It really cemented that the Weasleys do consider him family.
Yep.
Hearing how the fat lady yelled at Molly for being out with Arthur for a nighttime stroll was great. And Apollyon Pringle sounds worse than Filch.
That's true.
And, yeah, I kind of wonder, if there was some kind of, like apprenticeship going on too. Like he learned it all from Pringle. He's trying to live up to the Pringle name.
Yeah. When I heard that name, I'm like, yeah, that's a groundskeeper's name.
Yep.
Totally.
And then Mrs. Weasley bringing up Og, the gamekeeper before Hagrid. Makes me wonder when Hagrid was appointed his position, and what was he doing prior to that? Hagrid was in school at the same time as Voldemort, so that's a lot of years between from the time being appointed after Molly was there. I like to think that he went on some adventures with Newt Scamander. Wishful thinking, perhaps.
Yeah, probably too much.
Yeah, so from what I understand, from what I remember, he went into the job basically right after he was kicked out, because I think he was expelled, and the way I think Hagrid talks about it, it says Dumbledore kept him on as gamekeeper. Like I don't think there really was a gap there.
Yeah, which is interesting. I could see him giving him some entry level position. Maybe helping the house elves in the kitchen, or wait, no, that's a bad idea. Hagrid and cooking doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
Maybe he was, cleaning the owl loft, or some little things before he moved into the gamekeeper position. But yeah,
well, we'll touch on that again because I know somebody else mentioned that too.
Perfect.
So, hearing more details about the maze, it reminded me of when I was a kid and wanted to compete on Guts or Legend of the Hidden Temple. Yes, great shows. Outside of potentially getting really hurt or dying, the maze sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, little things to overlook.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, Legends of the Hidden Temple, that's kind of a good analogy for this maze. Mm-hmm. I know they were making that into a movie. Did that actually ever come out?
Has not come out yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I can totally see it's totally gonna be it should be like a Disney Channel movie.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Not like a feature film.
No, it's Nickelodeon Studios that makes it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So I mean, it's gonna be that type of movie, and if you go into it with that expectation and with the nostalgia factor, I think it could be good.
There's a trailer for it. Have you seen the trailer?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The trailer still wants me. I still want to see it.
Yeah. No. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, but it's one of those. I think anybody who didn't grow up with the show isn't gonna love it as much. Isn't gonna understand it or have any particularly strong feelings towards it.
It'll be just something else that they like that they don't have any attachment to beforehand.
Sure.
I mean, you gotta remember that there's a whole generation of kids that the new iteration of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this is their first time ever experiencing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is going to be their Turtles. Or their Transformers, or their Power Rangers, Without this nostalgia, it could still work, but it's definitely taps into a different market when you have that nostalgia on top of it.
Yep. Kind of brings the generations together.
Mm-hmm. Like Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts. Just
Very true.
I mean, for some people, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the first Harry Potter movie.
Also very true.
No, it's not that. That's a lie. For nobody, that was their first Harry Potter movie.
Finally, Joe says, "Talk to me about that Sphinx. I never expected to hear about a Sphinx. That totally jumped to the top 3 on my favorite list of favorite Fantastic Beasts."
I need to see it first before I make that bold statement, but I can see where it's coming from. Also,
All right.
when you think about, when they went to Egypt, we learned that, there were wizards in Egypt, and, there was a wizarding world that existed then. Then it kind of makes sense that, there's a Sphinx in Egypt. It's well, that was actually based on a real creature in the wizarding world.
Yeah.
So, kind of funny. I'm curious to see this thing in action.
Sure.
Which, with my luck, is probably not even going to be in the movie. But
Well, you should stop saying that then.
I'm just preparing for.
I wish this wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Then people just think I'm crazy at that point. More so.
All right. So for this next email, it's a little bit generic, but I figured now's as good as time as any to bring it up for you. I'm going to send you a picture here. And, well, I'll just send you the picture and see you can give me some reactions.
What is that?
So
I can't
I
open
got
this picture fast enough. Okay.
I got an email from Kim again.
Hi,
Kim. She was our winner last week.
Uh-huh.
And says a couple of things to pass on to Josh. She gave me the option to hold on to it until we came across another squid sighting or something. But I figured,
who knows how long
now's as
that'll
good
be.
as any. So this is colossal squid ice cream. She says, "I have very little chance of trying butterbeer ice cream, being on the other side of the world." She's over in New Zealand.
Okay.
But I will definitely give this ice cream a try next time I'm in Auckland. Of course, that's New Zealand. A local ice cream a local ice cream company has made a 3D printed chocolate squid that sits on top of the ice cream. And that's the picture I sent you.
That's incredible.
3D printed chocolate squid. And I mean, I will post this picture because it is amazing. Just the way they have it all wrapping through and the tentacle going through the cone.
That's my favorite part.
So good. So good.
The little details.
But yeah. She said, so she's like, why did they do this? Because we have a colossal squid in our national museum. So she sent me additional emails about pronunciation of all this stuff. Okay. I'm just going to whip through it and say I did it well. I guess it's actually Maori or something, and so it has weird pronunciations. But National Museum Te Papa in Wellington for the last 10 years, and the owner of the ice cream shop decided to create a squid. Sadly, knowing Josh's love of creatures, he may be upset to hear that squid was caught by a New Zealand fishing longline trawler while fishing in the Ross Sea. It was donated to the museum, and there's been a lot of study around the creature as a result. I always thought of the giant squid as a friendly, toast-eating, waving creature, but when you see one up close, you soon change your mind. The exhibit is the whole squid, and it's huge. It's scary and amazing. Headmistress Mel B made a comment about a documentary called Hunt for the Giant Squid. I haven't seen that, but there was a documentary made around this specimen, as there was a film crew on board the ship filming.
Okay.
It's all on YouTube. So if you search for Te Papa and the Colossal Squid, that's TE and then PAPA and the Colossal Squid. There's also a lot of information on the museum website if you want to learn more about the squid.
Cool. I am fascinated. And you know what? I understand. I don't think the fishing boat was purposely trying to catch the squid. It happens. You catch things that you are not intending to catch all the time.
Yep.
So
Sharks.
yeah, yeah, all kinds of weird things. So, you know, I can't fault him for it.
Sure.
Also, it's helping with research and trying to learn more about this amazing creature. But man, that is an ugly squid.
I think this is one of those that they said kind of like with the giant squid. Like for the longest time, they didn't know it existed, and then when they did, they like never saw it in its natural habitat because they just had this one example of it. And,
right.
Like, it's how you learn about things, I guess.
Well, I mean, like for the most part, like only thing that like we really had to go on was the fact that sperm whales had all these giant scars all over their body, and it's like, what in the world are the sperm whales doing down the depths of the ocean, getting torn up like that? Well,
yeah.
Come to find out that they're tangling and fighting giant squid.
Yep.
Ocean's an amazing place, Matt. Also, I really want that ice cream.
Yeah. If I ever make it down there, I'm gonna have to find that place.
Yeah.
All right. Next email from Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Says, hi guys, I have a few comments about last week's episode and a few more about this week's chapters. From the last episode, during the second task, the audience must not have been able to see what was going on at the bottom of the lake. Otherwise, the Merchieftess would not have needed to come up and tell the judges what had happened down below.
True.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
From this week's chapters, in the Pensieve, why was Karkaroff being tried in England when he was clearly from a different country? Doesn't his home country have its own Ministry of Magic or some other wizard legal system?
Yeah, but I feel it was like a extradited type of situation where like the Ministry in the UK were definitely dealing with the Death Eaters and Voldy and all that stuff, which was all happening in the UK. So regardless of where he was from, like they were the ones in charge of, the handling of the situation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured too. He committed crimes in England, probably. Yeah. So they're going to try him in England.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't be trusted to get a fair trial in his home country that, may have some bias towards what's going on or may not care,
Yeah. For the record, we do know there are other ministries for sure.
Oh, sure. But I'm saying like
at the Quidditch World Cup, we did have the Bulgarian minister. He was in attendance.
Sure. But I mean, if there's not like deaths happening all the time in Bulgaria by the Death Eaters, like if someone were to be accused of being a Death Eater from Bulgaria, they're not going to care as much because it's not affecting their people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. On to our last two emails. First one from the only Atari Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Says, Dear Josh and Matt, I had the misfortune of attending a college graduation this past weekend. And while sitting in boredom, listening to numerous people drone on and on, I found myself imagining how much more exciting a Hogwarts graduation must be. Not only would there be significantly fewer diplomas to hand out, but there would probably be some fascinating creatures, some cool magical effects to keep one's interest, and a keg of butterbeer at the after party. Yet another reason that we should all wish we could really attend Hogwarts.
I mean, and the food? Come on now.
Yep. The Hogwarts would be better.
I have thought a couple different times about Hogwarts graduations.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who knows? Someday, maybe.
Got a few more years, Matt.
Anywho, this week we are introduced to one of my favorite magical objects in the wizarding world, the Pensieve. If I could choose to have one item from the series, other than a wand, obviously, a Pensieve would be a strong contender. It seems so endlessly useful and mysterious, sort of like really crazy VR goggles. One thing that I've always been curious about, however, is how one removes oneself from a memory. Here we see Harry touch the mist, and he has a sensation of falling into the memory. Later, Dumbledore appears next to Harry, grabs him by the arm, and pulls him up. My interpretation has always been that the user of the Pensieve does not actually go anywhere, and that in the real world, Dumbledore physically pulls Harry up, which he's capable of doing because he is either wiser and or more experienced in using it.
Mm-hmm.
This would mean that Harry was hunched over the Pensieve with his head inside of the cabinet for some unknown amount of time, which I'm sure looked very funny to Dumbledore. We also learned some very interesting stuff inside the memories, and while I'm sure you'll both say it, I'd like to add, poor Neville.
I think we've said that plenty tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough, but still, we've covered that for sure.
But yeah, I have kind of thought about that. Like, is Harry physically actually transported into the bowl, or like I said, was it just a sensation and like this is all just going on in his head then?
Yeah.
Like, after all, these are memories.
Yeah.
So they could just be playing in his head.
Right. I mean, Dumbledore removes memories and places them in there without going in, so could you do the reverse, essentially, and get them? That's how I kind of saw it, too, was Harry wasn't physically there, but mentally he definitely was.
Well, and then, like, you see it later when the Pensieve is just sitting on the desk, and Dumbledore kind of swirls it and makes things pop up, like almost like I always kind of picture it as like a hologram. Then, like he's making, like, that's how it's like. This is how you're supposed to use it, Harry.
Right. Bring it to you, not go to it.
Yeah. Like it can be done either way, but yeah.
Here, look at Snape's face. Ah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, it's curious to think about.
Definitely.
The other thing I want to bring up this week is a minuscule detail that I'm sure goes unnoticed by most people, but has confounded me since the first time I read it. As Harry plays the role of impromptu tour guide, we learn that there was a different groundskeeper than Hagrid when Mrs. Weasley attended school. We know from Chamber of Secrets that Hagrid was expelled in his third year, 50 years prior to the events of that book, and became groundskeeper afterwards. Assuming Molly and Hagrid never knew each other at school, even if Hagrid began attending Hogwarts the year after she left, that would make Mrs. Weasley's age in Goblet of Fire in her 80s, meaning that she had children in her 50s and 60s. I know that wizard biology or immune systems or whatever are better than Muggles, but wow, that's pretty weird.
Here's another thing to think about.
Yeah?
Like, do we know for sure that Hagrid wasn't brought on as, like, an assistant gameskeeper or, you know, like some sort of apprenticeship or maybe just a second gameskeeper, you know, like.
And there you go. That is the most prevalent theory.
Yeah.
I don't think it has ever been officially answered by J.K., but to make it fit into the timeline, that seems to be the most logical.
Right.
That he was brought on as some kind of apprentice. Yeah.
Because I don't recall it saying that he was brought on and replaced the current one. It was just he was brought on as gameskeeper.
Exactly. Like
the only gameskeeper.
It just says Dumbledore kept him around as gameskeeper, I believe. Something like that. So, yeah. I have no reason to think that Og was still... yeah, it would be kind of weird because Hagrid at that time would have been 14. He was in his third year.
Right.
So it would have been kind of weird to say, hey, you 14-year-old kid, you're in charge now.
Yeah.
You're just kicked out of school, but we're going to give you a full-time job and lots of responsibility.
Right.
But if you bring him on as an apprentice, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I'm definitely okay with that.
Yeah. Stop trying to do math on us, Alex.
All right. Finally, then, from our headmistress, Mel B.
Hello, Mel B.
Says, hey, Matt and Josh, my protest has ended, mostly because this has ended on a cliffhanger, and I just know Josh is wondering what will happen next. But we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, someone last week mentioned how they wanted to try and be the last email, but realized it was too hard, so wanted to be the first email instead. That's a good plan. Don't play the late email game. It's not fun. It's heart-stopping when you don't think your email will make it. I have cut it fine too fine too many times because I'm so busy with work and don't get my reading done until the day of the recording or possibly the day before. So, good word warning from your headmistress.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to listen to anybody, probably should be her.
Yes. On to the chapters. I want to talk about Harry being nosy. I think everyone forgives Harry for being nosy because he's our hero. But seeing a partially open cabinet and opening it the whole way just to look into it, it's not cool. If I was Dumbledore, I would not be so understanding about a 14-year-old boy just taking a peek at my memories.
Yeah. I mean, but it's Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I said, I mentioned before, if it was anybody but Harry Potter, I think it'd be a different story. But I think, like I said, Dumbledore, I think, probably wanted to share these things with Harry at some point. It's like, well, now's not when I was planning, but might as well.
Yep.
Curiosity is not a crime, but if you go poking your nose where it doesn't belong, Mr. Harry Potter. Josh, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't trust Snape? He's clearly an upstanding citizen to the wizarding community. At great risk to himself, he spied on Voldemort for Dumbledore. Spies are very trustworthy people.
The most trustworthy,
yes.
Some would say.
The maze was so easy for Harry. He is just so amazing and lucky to get through it pretty much unscathed. He's much better at riddles than I am. I always forget the answer to the riddle and try to work it out when I reread. But he and Cedric have the cup and are being transported. A Hogwarts victory. What a wonderful day.
See, everybody keeps dropping Hogwarts victory, and I'm starting to think that you guys are just trying to mess with me here. I feel like you're setting me up for disappointment.
Man, you're going to keep doubting our fans. You're going to scare them all away.
I'm not doubting them. I'm suspicious of them, Matt.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I thought we talked about earlier about Mel B being kind of a prankster.
You did.
So this isn't out of the realm of possibilities here. We'll see.
She says about the poll, she would go for the Sphinx all the way. Everything else can be dealt with by magic, but riddles, yeah.
I mean, if you want to fight the Sphinx, you could use magic.
It's true. That was an option. If you get the riddle wrong, you can fight the Sphinx.
Sure.
Yeah. Still wouldn't want to do that either. But Josh, it's the last few days or weeks of the school year, and there's still 7 fairly chunky chapters to go.
Uh-huh.
So, what do you think will happen next?
Okay, we have a lot to figure out. We have to figure out what's up with Mr. Krause.
Okay. Yeah. Let me finish this off quick.
Oh, okay.
There are still so many unanswered questions. Who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire? What is Voldemort's grand plan? Like, seriously, he's running out of time before the school year ends. He's
pulling a Mel B and waiting until the last second.
What is the mystery of Barty Crouch? What did he know? Is Ludo Bagman the secret villain?
No. Get out of there. That's not even a question anymore. Eliminate that from the list.
Is Winky Voldemort?
Yes.
Will Josh and Harry ever trust Snape?
No.
Will Josh ever learn about the Goblin Rebellion?
Probably not. Until I write it myself.
And the most important question,
mm-hmm.
What's happening with the Weasley twins?
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, their blackmail scheme is still up in the air. We still got to learn what animal Rita Skeeter's turning into to hang out in Hogwarts and be a fly on the wall. What else do we got to learn? What Crookshanks? What that crazy cat's up to? The fate of Sirius Black. Like, what's he going to do after this year if everything is on the up and up? We got to figure out who wins the cup. Like, how's this going to work out? How's this going to shake out? Peter Pettigrew, where's he been at? What's he up to? How's this? Bertha Jorkins, we don't know anything about her yet. What's going on there? There is so much to figure out in the next 7 chapters. This is the exact reason why I am kind of starting to think that it's going to go into the next book with some loose ends.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
We will see. But for the time being, that is all the emails we have.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for the emails. I really enjoy them. And Matt really likes reading them.
Oh, yeah. So next week, we have chapters... Ooh, this is when we switch, I believe.
Yes. It's a 3-chapter week, Matt.
3-chapter week. Next week, we have chapter 32, 33, and 34.
So exciting. We are 2 weeks away, Matt.
Yep.
From finishing this sucker.
Yep.
Such good news. Be sure to get your reading done. And also, in the meantime, while you're doing your reading and you're writing some emails to congratulate me on being so right on so many different things, you could also be doing another thing, and that's entering the contest for this week.
It's true.
Matt, why don't you tell the people what the prize is, first of all?
Well, I've been looking for something along these lines for a while now. It's something we haven't really given away yet, and I felt it was something that Harry Potter fans could appreciate.
Yeah.
Especially fans of our show. So I have been searching up and down Etsy for something. I wanted it handmade. I didn't want something that they've made, hundreds or thousands of. Like, I wanted something a little more personal, and I finally found it. This is, I'll post a picture of this on Twitter too, because it's better if you see it.
Definitely.
And I don't think the picture even quite does it justice, but it's the best I can do for you. I found this art done by, I'm going to go with her name, Anya Kai, ANNYAKAI, if you want to look her up. Anya Kai, over on Etsy. And this particular piece is done in a, blue nighttime sky background with some little twinkling stars, and in gold foil, hand done, it says, "Don't let the muggles get you down." And I know we've brought this up on the show before, and it's one of my favorite phrases. It just kind of epitomizes, anyone who's a Harry Potter fan. So, don't let the muggles get you down. Nice reminder. Got it done up in a nice frame for you. The whole thing's going to be yours if you win this week.
It's a beautiful prize. Matt showed me a picture. I love it. Like he said, he's going to post a picture on it. We'll put it on Twitter. We'll probably put it on Instagram also, just to kind of show it off, because it is really cool. The way you could win it is to write an email. Send it over to talesfromgodric's@gmail.com. Make sure it is a separate email than your normal weekly email that you may be inclined to send. And this week, we're going to, like I said, put on our thinking caps a little bit. I want you guys to come up and look. I'm not going to fact check. If you want to Google this and just, get one, borrow one from somewhere else, I'm not going to hold it against you. Riddles. Write an email with a riddle. It could be as short or as complicated as you want it to be. If it's Harry Potter themed, that would be even cooler for this show, obviously, but not necessary. But let's have some fun riddles from based on the riddle that we saw in this third task, something along those lines. Something that the Riddler would deliver to Batman type of riddle. Now, I'm not saying it has to be one that has to stump me, because we're going to pick a random winner. That random winner is going to win regardless, as long as there is actually a riddle included in the email.
Sure.
But maybe Matt, we'll sort through them and he'll pick some fun ones or some good ones to read. I can't promise that we'll be able to read all of them, depending on how lengthy they are.
That could be a lot to read.
Yeah, but, Matt might be able to sort some out and pick out some good ones, or maybe we'll do something else with them. So that's the requirements. It could be totally original. It could be found on Google or wherever you may find your information. Whatever. Just be fun, have creative with it. Or be creative, have fun with it. Wow, I don't know how I got that backwards. That was weird. So again, talesfromgodric's@gmail.com. Get those in before next week's show, and we'll pick a winner for that cool framed piece of art that Matt has.
Yep.
Good stuff.
It is.
I am excited to read 3 chapters next week.
There can be some good chapters. I guarantee that.
Yeah. I feel like I need to do like a bingo card and just like mark off each thing of like unanswered questions that we get answered in the next 3 chapters. Because there's only 6 chapters left, and we have it split up between 2 weeks. So I feel like we're going to get a lot of answers, but probably not as many as I'd like. We'll see, though.
We'll see.
Matt, where can... you know what? Oh, I don't know why I'm doing it backwards. I usually do this first. I'm trying to throw you off here, and it's confusing everybody. You can find me personally on Twitter, @TheNoise, with a Y. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @TalesFromGH. If you do not like to use Twitter, I don't blame you. But if you do use Instagram, you can find us on Instagram, Tales from Godric's Hollow, all one word. And let's see, the website, talesfromgodricshollow.com, has our reading schedule, and you can listen to the podcast there. We could do all kinds of fun things. And if you'd like to support us and what we're doing here for the giveaways and everything that we have going on for the community, you could do so over on Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Matt, now I'll ask you, where can people find you at?
Oh, you can always find me personally on Twitter @AsAMatterOfMatt. Or if you want to get a hold of me privately, away from Josh's prying eyes, you can always do that via email, as you do with all the giveaways and other emails you send in, at talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
One day I'm going to hack into that email just to see what kind of secrets you're holding in that chamber. Not this week. I'll wait until this book's done.
All right.
With that being said, I look forward to next week, Matt. I hope you do, and I hope the listening audience does as well. It's going to be fun. Remember, 3 chapters, 32 through 34. Get them done. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Until next time, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.